Good evening. My name is Janet Bernardo, Conservation Commission Chair, and today is May 11th, 2023, and this is the Needham Conservation Commission public hearing. Just like to confirm that all members and staff are present and can hear me. Stephen.
Here.
Peter.
Here.
Paulina.
Here.
Sue.
Here.
And then Deb.
Here.
And Clay.
Here.
Oh, and Allison is now here. Allison, can you hear us?
Looks like she's still connecting.
Okay. Remind me to come back to her at the end. This open meeting of the Town of Needham Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. All supporting materials have been provided to members of this body and are available on the Conservation Commission website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each hearing on the agenda. I will introduce the applicant and/or their consultant to begin their project presentation. After they conclude their presentation, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment or question. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you, and please state your name before speaking. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. And Allison, can you hear us? And I don't see her either. I just see her name. So Allison, if you're talking, we cannot hear you. Deb, you want to work on trying to connect with Allison? Okay, we're going to take things slightly out of order to hopefully move some people along. 1000 Olin Way, request for determination of applicability. Is somebody here to discuss that project? And please state your name for the record. I see Claire Rogers. Are you the person or are there others?
Good evening. This is Kristen Tarr with NG. I'm here on behalf of NG and Olin College, joined by Phil London with SWCA. I don't see Phil on here. Hey, Phil.
Oh, he's
Okay.
okay.
It just
Your
says a
name.
different name. Awesome.
He's
Great.
Clay.
Sorry, Clay.
Awesome. So my name is Kristen Tarr. I want to thank the Conservation Commission for inviting us to present here tonight. As I said, my name is Kristen Tarr, project developer with NG. I'm joined here by Phil London with SWCA, also Will Maidment with NG, and Claire Rogers with Olin College as the Associate Director of Sustainability and Campus Engineering. I can share my screen real quick. We have a quick presentation to go through.
Yes, please do.
All right. One moment. Just got to get it into present mode. Right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great. So as I mentioned, NG and SWCA are here representing Olin College in the Olin College Solar Carport Project. NG was selected by Olin College in November as a long-term partner and long-term owner-operator of the proposed solar carport. We have taken this project through the Zoning Board of Appeals and received approval there. We've also gone through the Design Review Board as part of the Zoning Board of Appeals. NG has 26 operational projects here in Massachusetts, an additional project under construction. And so this Olin College project would be 28th project of NG's. And as mentioned, NG would be a long-term owner operator and community partner with Olin College and the town of Needham. This project is a 480 kilowatt AC proposed solar carport located at 1000 Olin Way in the main parking lot A at Olin College. Project will be owned and operated by NG, and the power fed to Olin College through a 25-year power purchase agreement. It will tie into the existing transformer behind Milas Hall, and our target operation is the end of this year.
Kristen, just to pause you a moment, I'm not sure if you're aware, but it seems to be sharing the presenter screen rather than the slideshow screen.
Okay, sorry.
Just
It doesn't make any difference. It's whatever works for you.
I just
You
wanted to
can,
make sure you were aware.
Okay, yeah, I don't usually typically use Zoom, so that's good to know. We can,
we can just read all your little
Yeah.
notes to yourself, so not a worry.
that's fine. I don't even think I have that many notes in here, but thanks
You
for calling
don't.
that out.
You don't, you're
Awesome.
fine.
Great. So we're really excited about this project. Olin's really excited about this project. This is going to be a really big pillar of sustainability on the campus, and it's going to have some interactive components for the students to use the real-time data, and can include it in the learning with the curriculum. The project's going to have PV modules. It's going to have a solar racking system, as well as our interconnection equipment. We're going to use anti-reflective coating on our panels and steel columns for our racking, and we'll feed the power through to that transformer behind Milas Hall. I talked a little bit about the benefits, but it's going to be a living classroom for students, allow generation of clean and renewable energy to Olin College. This project's in line with Massachusetts Climate Action Plan, Needham's Climate Action Plan, and Olin's Climate Action Plan. Those are both still under development, but this is kind of a great way to kick those climate action plans off that are still under development. It also provides covered parking to students through the weather in Massachusetts, and improve stormwater quality by grabbing the precipitation before it hits the pavement. I'll turn it over to Phil to present on our wetlands.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So SWCA had a wetland scientist delineate this site in January 2023. This is a delineation map that was in the application. So the two wetland areas that are in green, they are BVW. We refer to them as wetlands 1 and 2, with 1 being kind of the most south and 2 being to the east. We also kind of field estimated an isolated wetland. We didn't have permission to survey, but it's actually on the town of Wellesley, within the town of Wellesley, but within 100 feet of our project site. That's the one in yellow, kind of to the west. We also delineated kind of a stormwater detention pond, which is kind of in purple. We also delineated some kind of ephemeral channels that kind of feed into wetland 2. And we also demarcated the buffer zones. Obviously the 100-foot buffer zone, and also under the town bylaw, we also put the 25-foot buffer zone there.
So the 25 foot is the yellow dash,
Yes,
100 is the green dash.
correct.
And the purple, I'm sorry, and the purple is the detention basin.
Correct.
All right. Got it.
Trista, I don't know if I can actually change the slide. Can you just hit the next one? Okay, so this is the actual plan for the project. You know, you can see the solar carports. There's 5 of them in the parking lot. You know, associated with that, there is going to be some trenching for conduit, and that trenching also goes to Milas Hall. You know, you kind of see maybe a 35-foot corridor, kind of you know, where the roundabout is. Yeah, exactly right there. So there's going to be a trench kind of going right down the center of that you know, serves as the tie-in to, you know, the existing electrical system.
So I'm sorry, so the solar panels are over the existing parking lot, is that correct? So the
Yeah.
only, so far, the only thing that is in not parking lot is this conduit that you're just talking about.
Correct. And that part is, it's adjacent to a walkway. It's a grass area, with landscaping. So, really the primary aspects of, why we're here is because there are little bits that are in the 100-foot buffer zone. Some of the carport in the parking lot on the kind of northwestern extent. You can kind of make it out on this plan. It just kind of clips, kind of the edge of the carports. And then in that landscaped area we were just talking about, a little bit of that is in the 100-foot buffer zone as well. I should note, we're not within 25 feet and we are not within, the 50-foot buffer zone too, that the local bylaw.
How close are you?
I think that 35-foot corridor is up against the 50-foot corridor,
Okay, so you're about 50 feet away from
Yeah.
a jurisdictional wetland.
between 50 and 100.
To do a underground conduit that will then be, which is in a grassed area or is it a landscaped area? Is
It's
it
a
wooded
landscaped
area?
area, yeah.
Landscaped with like, landscaped area, not woods. Is it woods? It's like landscaping that Olin College has done landscaping.
Yeah, correct.
And you're gonna replace it and put it back and it's gonna look just the same as it does under existing conditions.
Correct. The trenched areas would be put back with, the side cast material and, at least, 4 inches of topsoil and, seeded. Obviously the areas would be repaved that are in the parking lot.
Bill, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sure.
Just for clarification, the 35-foot easement area, I think you said the edge of that easement area is around the 50-foot buffer, but your trench is going to be probably in the middle of the easement area, right? And the trench is way smaller than 35 feet. So,
Right.
So your trench, your disturbance is actually way away from the 50-foot.
Correct. Great point. As you said that, I was thinking that, and I don't know whether I should say that, but.
And you have erosion controls?
Yes. There will be erosion controls. First of all, in the parking lot, there are catch basins. So, there will be inlet protection provided for all the catch basins that drain the area. And then there will be erosion controls installed, as needed based upon the disturbance. I should note that 35-foot corridor, I believe there may be a proposal, depending on the contractor, to actually horizontal drill that. So that would even be less disturbance there. But if they do end up trenching the whole thing, there will be erosion controls on that downslope side.
Why would they horizontally drill that?
Just to, I think it would be to minimize disturbance. I think it's up to the contractor as to what exactly they want to do there.
Well, I feel like you're just kind of, I was thinking that this was a nice, easy thing.
Okay.
So that's why I'm like, why would a contractor choose what I believe is a more expensive route to do something that is more than 50 feet away from a wetland and
Sure.
imagine you're having erosion controls put up. So I'm trying to understand what I'm missing here. That I feel like you're making this difficult and it shouldn't be.
I'm sorry. We had it mentioned in the application, so I just thought it was
Okay.
important to mention. It's something that the contractors, it's going to be up to the contractor as to how they
Okay.
want to install that section.
Great.
Can I just add 2 cents? Because I know a little bit about this stuff and I don't want to speak for the applicant, but depending on the contractor, it may be less expensive, Janet, to do a horizontal directional drill for somebody that
Oh, okay.
has the equipment. And, because digging a trench, you need a backhoe. It's very slow, tedious. If there's any kind of slope on that, it's going to be very difficult. Directional drilling, they'll just tunnel it right in there and pull it right back, and it'll be much quicker and less disturbance,
Oh,
and-
cool. Oh, all right, good. I think of it as going when like you have a stream and you're trying to get underneath that stream and not disturb anything, but I
No, they-
never thought of it as being less expensive. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Can I ask a quick question? Have you contacted Wellesley about their isolated wetland? Just,
No, we have not.
okay.
Are you,
So,
and you're within the 100 feet of their isolated wetland?
Yeah, we are just kind of on the edge of their,
well,
Yeah.
just in case there's any chance of it being a vernal pool because it's isolated, you should probably, contact them just to see if they need you to do anything.
okay. The delineator that did that did not indicate that that was any type of vernal pool habitat, but I can follow up with Wellesley, sure.
Yeah, just because you're in their jurisdiction, so would probably be prudent.
Sure. So I know we have a couple other slides, but we may have kind of covered everything. So that's kind of, what the renderings, what it would look like, the carport.
Great.
And this just talks about the project schedule. They are looking to start kind of in June and, go through August. Trying to see anything relevant. I talked about the stormwater controls, but we kind of already talked
So
about.
I did hear earlier that these solar panels are going to improve water quality, and I was kind of curious how that was going to happen.
Well, it was just that the carport will intercept the water before it hits the pavement. So, that'll be connected into the kind of the stormwater system.
So
So,
the carport is gonna, it's solar panel, so it's gonna, you have like a gutter system or something on it? Like,
Correct.
how is the water gonna get from the top of the carport to the?
correct. They'll have a gutter system that'll collect it and it'll convey the water into the existing system.
Okay,
So, the point is it'll intercept it before it hits the pavement with all the, all the pavement stuff.
great, okay.
And yeah, this is our last slide. It's really just reiterating everything we talked about. We're not going to be altering a resource area. We're going to be in the outer kind of 100-foot. There's going to be no trees cut into wetlands or the buffer zone. All temporary areas will be stabilized and restored to their pre-existing conditions. And there's going to be no new point source discharges associated with this project.
Was one of these a photo of the area that's in where the conduit is gonna be dug in the buffer zone? There's no photo of that though, right? This is just a sketch.
That is aerial based.
Okay. Clay or Deb, I think Clay maybe went out or discussed this? Where's Clay? Oh, there you are. Do you have anything to add? And did you take any photos?
I don't have any photos ready of the site. The work itself is pretty minor. I think the RDA is fitting. The only concern was just about, making sure that the stormwater is managed, that the outflow, I know you're directing them towards existing catch basins and that discharge already exists. But I think these are going over pervious islands, so just making sure there's no scouring or anything that's going to occur at the outflows due to any increased stormwater.
Does that make sense? We can't hear you, Phil. Are you talking?
Yeah, I think it was Clay was just concerned about it, kind of increased runoff going to the islands due to construction. So I was having trouble hearing a little bit.
Yeah, just making sure that any increased stormwater from the newly installed ports, I imagine it would be relatively negligible since they're going over primarily a parking area, but since they are going over what appear to be, pervious landscape islands, just making sure that we're not causing any scouring at the discharge point. So adding, riprap or something if there is any, if over time there is any scouring. So just, I guess, monitoring of that outflow to make sure that there's no long-term impacts.
And share the discharge points.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I will convey that, definitely.
Yeah, Clay, I can talk to that a little bit. Yeah, we'll have riprap at the ends of our gutters. So yeah, the discharge rate won't increase too drastically.
Okay, great.
So, and where will you put erosion controls? I'm looking at a plan that looks like the erosion controls are in the middle of the parking lot.
Yeah, so basically our erosion controls are gonna be around the inlet catch basins and at the edges of the trenches. It's kind of hard to see. There's a little
Well,
black.
it's a big, dark, thick line that looks like it's a line of hay bales or silk stock or something that is long line in the middle of the parking lot.
Yeah, that's
It's
the,
on sheet 3.00.
yep, that's the trenching path.
Oh, that's the trenching path?
Yeah.
Ah. Oh, so what about closer to the wetlands? Is there any erosion controls needed where that trenching is happening?
Yeah, so we have standard like sediment control logs that we'll put down in the parking lot, and those are up to the contractor's discretion. But we'll work with them and make sure there's no runoff going into the wetlands.
Hey, anybody in the commission have any questions? Sue,
I think I'm good.
Peter,
I'm good.
Stephen,
No comment.
Paulina?
I recuse myself.
Oh, right, you recuse yourself. We should have said that early in the beginning. Thank you. And Allison, I saw a minute ago. Allison, do you have any comments or questions? Not hearing her.
Who are you asking?
Allison,
So she's having issues. Clay and
Okay.
I are trying
Did
to
I-
work with her.
did I get everybody else? And anybody in the audience have any questions or concerns or statements?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, and your team is satisfied? You've all said your piece? Yes, I assume that that's a yes. Okay, so Clay, you did your review. Oh, Stephen?
So Janet Doe, without Paulina, we need Allison for a quorum, don't we?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4. No, we
Oh,
have
no, we have Sue, I'm
Peter and
sorry.
Sue. Yep, we're good.
Thank you.
And so I guess my only thing is with wanting to make sure that any erosion control, if needed, is there, like within that easement line. So because it's not kind of clearly shown here, I'm like, and it might not be needed, so that would be my concern. Okay, so everybody said their stuff, so
Janice,
yes.
how would it work with Wellesley? I mean, with order, with,
Well, the applicant will need to go to Wellesley and do a similar process as this and ask them for a request for determination of applicability. They can do work, if we issue a negative determination, they can do the work in Needham, but it's up to them to go to Wellesley and to do any work that's within the Wellesley's jurisdiction. Okay, did that make sense to the team? Phil, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Yeah. I've had the situation in the past, and I mean, I definitely will follow up with Wellesley as
Yeah,
to
we
whether
can't- we
we actually
can't-
need a filing, when the work is
Sure.
actually in this town, we're required to file with, with
100%, you need to work with within Needham jurisdiction,
Sure.
you file with the Needham Conservation, which you've done, but we cannot give you permission to work in Wellesley's jurisdiction. It's kind of like we can't, if you wanted to dig a hole in Wellesley, we couldn't say it was okay. It's they're outside of our jurisdiction, so we
Okay.
can only,
All
we
right,
can only
well,
talk about the Needham wetland.
Sure. I'll definitely follow up with Wellesley and let you know the results of that.
Yeah, that doesn't change our opinion. Because if you did not follow up with Wellesley and then they decided to issue an enforcement order on you because of working within their jurisdiction without a permit with them, then that's on, that's their right. So it's to your best interest to confirm with Wellesley that you've done everything that you needed to do with them.
Okay. Sounds good.
So if everybody is satisfied and staff believes that we can issue a negative determination of applicability, I will take a motion.
So moved.
Take a second.
Second,
Thank you. All in favor? Peter,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Stephen,
aye.
Janet, aye. So Allison, I think, is still having trouble, and Paulina has recused herself, so that's 4. And so that's a negative, which is great. Let's make sure any erosion controls go on and you can deal with Wellesley. Thank you very much for coming.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you.
Quick question before we go on. Allison is still having issues. She's wondering if we have a quorum because she wants to give up.
We have a quorum, yes.
So we don't need her for anything to vote.
No, but ask her if she wants to go in person. We want to have a conversation. I promised Sue tonight that we would discuss going in person or being on Zoom. So
Okay.
we can discuss that tonight. We can also, everybody can kind of vote by email to Sue, I mean to Deb, and we can make
Okay.
it.
I will
that
ask
time.
her, and I
Ask-
did ask Dave previously.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, next. I guess we can go to 37 Mosley Avenue. I would like this not to take an hour tonight, so it is 7:27. That Olin College took longer than I would have liked it to. So let's try not to have 37 Mosley take too long. So is the applicant here?
Yes.
Who is here on, okay, Karen Skinner is here on behalf of the applicant. Anybody else with your team?
Daniel?
I'm here as well.
Daniel's here as well. Great, thank you. And Clay, I don't know if there's anybody in the audience tonight that either has their hand raised or maybe want to be brought forward earlier. And so we don't have to wait too long. So where are you guys at? You want to kind of just bring us up to date with, we had a long discussion last time. We asked for some additional things. Did you provide them?
Yes, yes, we did. So I can just go through the all the changes that you requested at the last meeting quickly.
Okay,
Clay, can you put up the tree plan?
Yep, it's just gonna take me a moment. I'm relogging into our system here. I timed out, sorry.
So we did send a revised arborist report to the commission, and that speaks about the tree protection.
so I see in our folder for May 11th, I have revised plans. So there's also a revised arborist.
There was a revised arborist report also.
Does everybody else have a revised arborist report? Steve? Peter?
So the two things that were covered in the arborist report was tree protection for the trees that will be remaining, and also several trees will be left as snags. So that's really
Great.
the two.
Okay, we can, okay,
Okay, well, Clay's putting that up. I can go through some of the other changes that the commission requested. So
okay,
the rain garden is proposed 17.5 feet from the neighbor's lot line. There's an
oh, you
issue with
you changed it, made it bigger, okay, I'm back to 1.
Back to
okay.
1, yep. Letters were left in the mailboxes of the abutters with the developer's contact information.
Great,
The compost stock will be 12 inches as requested by the commission. So I'm just gonna go back to the trees quickly. So trees 8, 9, and 10 will be removed if the neighbors want them removed.
And Karen, just to let you know, the arborist report wasn't included in your email.
Oh, okay, I thought Mikhail had sent that to you
Okay, sorry.
in that Yahoo email that he sent.
All right, I'll double check. I was just looking at yours.
Okay, so again, 8, 9, and 10 will be removed if those are on the street. Those will be removed if the neighbors want them removed. It
so
has no
those are all
bearing.
the ones that have wires. 8 and 9 definitely had wires in them, 10 also,
Mhm.
10. Okay, 10
Um,
is within the 25-foot, but maybe it's desirable. Okay,
Okay, trees 2, 3, and 4 will be snagged. They were originally proposed to be removed.
2, 3, and 4, great, great.
Okay, 1, 6, 7, 12, and 13 will be removed.
Okay, 1 was dead, 6 was dead, 7 was a Norway maple, 13 was, I forget. Okay,
Tree number 5 behind the garage,
yep,
that will remain.
Yep.
We're proposing sonotubes in the rear of the garage, so that tree will not be impacted.
great.
Okay, so, and see, I went through the other things.
And what about the other big one? Was that number 12?
Yeah, 12, that will be removed.
11, 12, and-
I just forward everyone that arborist report in your
11,
emails.
11, 12, and 13 are all being removed?
There was one big one that was gonna be saved, another big
Well,
one.
11's gonna be saved. Which one? What's the other big one? 11 and 5?
I don't have 11 is being removed. Let me just
Protect and prune. Yes, 11 and 5 must be the two big ones.
protect them from, yeah.
Remove entirely, remove mostly 10-foot snag, protect, remove entirely. Okay. Peter, I have a question for you, maybe. I was reading more about snags and seeing that they're usually more like 6 or 7 feet. Do you have a thought on how high snags should be? Is 10 feet too high or is 10 feet fine?
Oh, 10 feet's fine.
Okay, fine.
No, I'd
good.
prefer them to be higher.
Okay, okay, good. I just wanted to confirm that 10 feet was a good height. Okay, so that's the tree stuff.
Mhm. So, getting back to the construction of the additions, 115 feet of impervious is proposed within the 125. That's equal to the footprint of the house that's within that 25 foot. That's not counting the square foot of the existing garage or shed that will be removed. Okay, the deck, we're proposing 3 helical piers within the 25. An inspector from the pier company is going to come out and assess the situation. They're going to look at what kind of machinery needs to be used for this. If it's too impacting to the wetlands, then we can come back to the commission and discuss that.
Okay, who's gonna come out and look at it?
Inspector from the pier, the helical pier company.
Okay. Anything else?
And that's it.
Okay, so I think one of our discussions was about the deck still being within the 25 foot. And so commission members, I'm curious what people think about the deck. And that it's within the 25 foot no disturb zone. Will have helical piles. It's sticking out beyond whatever this little X is. The X is the silt sock. We don't know exactly where these helical piles will go in. Who has an opinion? Sue, you have an opinion?
What's going underneath the deck?
Shade tolerant plants.
How high up in the ground is the deck?
I think Daniel can probably speak to that.
I'd have to confirm with the elevations, but I believe the deck will be about 8 to 10 feet high off the ground.
Really? That's so not what I was envisioning. So the existing finished floor elevation of the house is 99.7. And the back of the deck at the moment, the grade is 97, almost 3 feet from the existing finished floor. Is the proposed finished floor coming up significantly higher than that?
I don't think it's going to be coming up significantly higher, but we're adding a foot or two to it to give it a little bit more just clearance for elevation.
And is the deck coming off the first floor?
Yes,
So maybe it's 5 feet off the ground?
it may be that, then, like I said, I'd have to confirm with the elevations.
Okay. All right. Sue, anything else?
Not for now.
Peter?
About the deck, no, I mean, that's already disturbed area, so, I mean, it's not a matter of being impervious, right? It's because they'll,
Correct.
Right, water will go through the deck boards.
can I just ask a different, or maybe we're not ready to talk about it, but I did notice I couldn't find in the new plans, any planting plan.
Oh,
and
I saw a
know-
planting plan.
Did you? I did not. I saw a legend, but I didn't see that on the actual plan.
I just was looking at a planting plan. On sheet 405. Oh, you see the legend. Maybe that's what I'm looking at. It's just the legend. Oh, you don't know where the plants are. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we talked about this before. We don't see the trees. We just see the legend.
Yeah, the trees were on there on the last plan. So
Well, they
George,
weren't the
so-
last time because we talked about that the last time too.
So the trees, I had gone out to the site and identified some locations. They were on past plan. I apologize that they weren't carried over.
Yeah, we had brought that up the last time. Peter mentioned it before that there was just a legend and no new trees. So we definitely should show where the new trees are gonna go if you're gonna take away these other trees.
So those trees are all gonna be in the area off to the side, 25 foot off to the side. That was really the only area I could find that had the space for the trees.
Okay, Peter, we'll come back to
Okay.
you again in a minute. Stephen, anything about the deck?
Nothing about the deck. I'm wondering if there's a plan that shows, are we putting markers at the 25-foot no disturb zone?
We can do that.
I mean, a site like this, especially, I mean, this is a developer building it to sell to somebody, and the new homeowners are not gonna know anything about the wetland area.
Yeah. I think markers are a good idea, but you are okay with the deck being within the 25-foot no disturb zone? Like the whole deck?
Yeah, I think so. If it's up on helical piles, that'd be fine.
Paulina,
Don't have any comments.
specifically about the deck. Okay,
About the
so that I think was one of the items that we wanted to definitely clarify that that it's okay to that the commission, that I'm hearing the commission say it's okay to put in this deck in what's a previously disturbed area, but it was within that 25-foot no disturb zone. So just that was kind of a critical item, I think. Now, I know Dave was concerned about all the math that you were just talking about, Karen.
Yep.
Did that get clarified and has it all been double checked and all of the numbers match?
Yes, yep.
Okay, so as far as the tree discussion, I think, does everybody understand which trees are going to be removed? We just don't know exactly where the new trees are going. Is that a true statement? And does anybody want to comment about any of the trees that are being removed, or have we kind of already had that discussion too?
8, 9, and 10 were dependent on the neighbors. Was a yes or no?
8, 9,
9,
and 10, and we can, so we're saying that at the moment, I believe at the moment, we
Yep.
are saying, if
It's
we
okay.
go along with this, that it's okay for them to remove them. They may choose not to if the neighbors
Okay.
really don't want them to.
Good, good.
It's kind of the neighbors kind of asked for those. But at the moment, if we approve this plan, we are approving 8, 9, and 10 coming out.
Right. They're in the wires anyway.
Yeah, they're in the wires. They're really in the wires. And they're not that healthy. I think they were all, maybe they were all Norway maples. I kind of forgotten. I might be wrong. But so we still need a plan, and then the rain garden is now moved outside. And do we have calculations for that rain garden, and has it been stamped by a professional engineer?
Oh, yes, that was, Richard Vulcan stamped that. And he also did the soil testing. You asked at the last meeting who did the soil testing.
Okay, he did it, and
Mhm.
he's a soil evaluator.
Yes,
And where are the okay, so these are the calculations for the changing the view. So sheet 3 of 5 is the soil test log, the rain garden system, the footprint of the building with the calculations. We will do a double check on that. I think Dave is looking at that, and stamped by my engineer. So the impervious area has been confirmed, the erosion control line has been confirmed. Soil testing got confirmed, the root zone is using you said the tubes for the garage.
yeah.
I believe that does make sense. Is the garage? So the grading for the garage. Is it higher than the existing grade, so that there's like, what will be the elevation of the garage?
Janet, to answer your question, yes, the garage will be higher than the existing grade. And in order to do the garage and protect the root system of the tree, what we're going to do is sonotubes on the back around where the roots are. And then on top of the foundation, that's going to be on the front and sides. We're going to do corrugated steel and then pour on top of that. So the roots
Okay.
underneath the garage will not be disturbed. We're trying to do as little impact as possible to that tree.
Great, thank you very much for that.
No problem.
That's
Yeah. Great.
So did you say what you wanted to say there?
Great.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
I agree.
Second reading, okay. Revised plans are uploaded for review okay, so one thing that staff noticed was that the check you wrote for the fee waiver is dated January 2022. So we will need a new check for work within the 25-foot no disturb zone. And my guess is the commission will vote on it. But because of the amount of work that will occur there, that it's not just plantings, we will likely not waive that fee. So we will want a new check. So one thing Steve
No
talked
problem.
about was markers. So putting markers at the 25-foot no disturb zone. We have done different things for markers in the past. Sometimes they are birdhouses, sometimes they're boulders, sometimes it's a fence, sometimes it's granite markers. You can tell us what you want for a marker, and you can, would like to see where those markers will be on this plan, because it does kind of zigzag around, but maybe you can come up with, and so from the commission's point of view, the 25-foot no disturb zone is where we would like these markers compared to anywhere else. Is that a true statement?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would try to come up with maybe 6 places that you can put markers, and let us know what those markers will look like.
And then you can purchase the placards to put on them.
And yeah, we have placards. You talk to the conservation aid department, and we have little placards that say, you're in, this is the 25-foot no disturb zone. so that the future owner will know exactly what they are.
You can put those placards up.
Excellent. So we would like a plan that shows the markers and a plan that shows where the trees are going to be replaced. And anything else that we needed on the plan? Steve, I'll ask you first.
No comment.
Peter,
Nothing other.
Paulina,
No, nothing.
Sue?
I just want to be sure that when, is it Karen, mentioned, plantings underneath the deck? I think that's important.
Okay, yeah, if you could make sure you clarify exactly what the plantings will be underneath the deck as well. There are plantings in the rain garden. Are those shown on? There's garden plants, the inkberry. Do we, oh, and you say numbers, so you have 3 inkberries, 5 swamps, so those are in the garden system. So I don't think we need to know more about where those are located. We will know, maybe like you can do a similar thing under deck plants and say, list out what those plants will be, similar to how you show the garden plants. And then the legend for proposed plants and the trees, you'll want to clarify exactly where those trees will be. And we just got the arborist report. So really, I think the plan is getting much closer. If we could just have markers and trees and plants underneath the, and is anything else? Anybody see, is there any neighbors or anybody in the audience that would like to be heard?
We currently have 3 hands. The first hand raised was Nancy Smith. We'll go ahead and move them over.
Okay. Nancy, you have the floor if you want to unmute yourself.
Hi, Nancy Smith, 29 Mosley Avenue.
How are you?
I feel a little bit of pressure seeing as we want to get this done. I've condensed 5 pages to 2. I'm hoping that will be acceptable. I also want to thank you for your patience and your willingness to educate us all on all of this. We're coming from a zero place of understanding and a great place of care. So let me try to be concise. It looks like in the wetland protection regulations, if you'd like me to cite it, 2.06, section 3, paragraph C says no alteration of vegetation or construction within 50 feet of the limit of vegetated wetlands is permitted. I guess I'm a little bit surprised when I look at this monster of an addition onto a small house, how much of it really is in the 50-foot no disturb zone.
So just hold on, Nancy. So I think the regulation says it's not permitted without a permit. So that's why they're in front of us to ask for that permit.
And I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure you know, it's not that it's never, like, the Wetlands Protection Act does not say they are never allowed to build within the 50 feet.
Yes, and I looked through the exceptions and whatnot, but also as a complete lay person here. Okay, go. 3 helical pilings remain in the 25-foot zone. I imagine they'll be on the far left edge of the deck. That's 12 feet away from the wetlands. The deck also covers, it isn't lawn, it's where creatures and whatnot are used to being in full sun and natural soil, and it will be very different. I understand there'll be plantings. I'm concerned about that, in addition to driving the pilings in, and whether driving is whacking them in or screwing them in, you're disturbing that area, and it's so close to the wetland. Remains a concern.
Okay, thank you.
Rain garden. On page 3 of 5, it says the bottom elevation of the rain garden is 93.5 feet. On the same page, it shows the groundwater, the ESHGW elevation is 93.3. It appears the rain garden will be about 2 inches higher than the groundwater. How will all the water from the roof sump and just regular rainfall? I mean, after 10 days of rain and my sump running twice a minute, I'm not exaggerating, twice a minute, how can that difference accommodate all that water without throwing it into the wetland and in my yard?
So the rain garden is basically to manage the water, but it's not necessarily required to infiltrate it all. It is to provide some management, some water quality, and it will then should overtop into the wetland as a cleaner system. So they are required to kind of manage it a little bit. I mean, managing it better than it is being managed today. They're holding the 1-inch storm, and that's kind of how the calculations are supposed to be showing. So the idea is it's not going into your yard. The idea would be going towards that wetland. That's
And
closest to it.
I love the idea, but I think, and please correct me, I understand that 1 inch is for not as tender an area so close to the wetlands as this. So it's 1 inch at the top of Tower Road. It's 1 inch when you're 300 feet from the wetlands. This is tender area here. That 1 inch seems a little like not enough for what for our circumstance.
Well, you have to appreciate that wetlands like water. So this is containing it to an extent, but it is a wetland system that will be, it's still connected to the water. So,
But different than it falling down. It's coming off the roof. It's coming out of the basement. I wouldn't be surprised if you went over there and found 4 feet in the basement right now. It's a lot of water into this. I mean, it's managing a lot of water in a very small, to me, kind of space. But so noted.
I'd also like to make a comment that the rain garden will help filter any of the sediment or any runoff that will be coming out of the basement or the roof. And that's the point of rain gardens too, is kind of slow the flow, help retain any and filter things out before it continues towards the wetland.
Even when it's so close to the water table, there are a couple of inches there.
because it's the surface of the rain garden. I mean, the plants in the rain garden do better with wet feet. That's kind of the idea of a rain garden. So the
But it won't-
surface has more depth than the bottom. So there's depression area also.
Okay. It just seems like it'll be an awful lot of water for such a high water table. That it'll just bypass all of the well-intentioned uses for the plants and the stones and stuff, but I'm happy to move on. I think the water table is a concern.
Would there be a berm? Would there be having a berm on Nancy's on one side of the rain garden to protect Nancy's property?
Yeah, it's
Some
showing
kind of
that the
berm.
top of the rain garden is at 96. And then the bottom of the rain garden's at 93.5. So there is depth there. This
Well,
is 12 inches.
93.3 is the groundwater.
But it's only, yeah, but it has storage between 96. Then there's the surface that I think is 95. It's hard to tell in this picture. There's an invert is at 95. And then, so there's a depression that's also the surface that's open, like where the plants are.
Okay.
And then there's the underground pipe part that has stone in it, and that's where some of the water is directed as well. But the plants, there's a foot of storage there that's above the ground.
A foot of storage above the ground?
I'm seeing a 96.3 at the top of berm, and then I see a 95. That's like an invert. A 96 is top stone. Well, their plan is not exactly the same thing. But let's move on. What's next? We're gonna
rain-
reach-
Sorry.
That's
Rain garden, let's see. It shows on that page 3 of 5 that it needs to be a minimum of 10 feet from the building or whatever, but on all the other pictures, it shows it butt up against the garage.
But so the building is the house. The garage doesn't have a foundation. So it's usually 10 feet away from a foundation and the garage doesn't have a foundation. The garage, it's on a slab.
So that drawing on page 3 of 5 is erroneous, that there's a 10-foot minimum.
Well, there's 10-foot minimum from a house, but it's not a house. It's like the foundation wall. So it's more than that because it has the whole garage to go through, 22 feet.
Okay. Let's see. How deep will the basement be? So there are there is a lot of new, what was called in previous meetings, full basement under all of the additions, with the exception, obviously, of the deck and the garage. Is in terms of what would the elevation of the basement be?
Daniel or Karen, can you tell us the elevation of the basement? The new basement?
Daniel, can you speak to that?
Bear with me a moment here. I believe the elevation of the basement either will remain at existing or might go down a minute amount, just based on the fact that it's already so low.
Do you know what it is?
But I do not. I'll have to confirm with the elevations. I don't have that information offhand. I apologize.
So again, my concern is if the groundwater elevation is 93.3 and you're building a basement,
we won't be building the basement into the groundwater. That's definitely not what we're doing. And I understand we have to keep a minimum clearance between the foundation and also where the ground is and everything too. So we'll be maintaining everything that we need to with that in respect.
I think.
Yeah, hold on. Daniel, I think you may have misspoke there because you will, if the finished floor of the existing house is 99.7, my guess is the basement is 8 feet or something in that order. Maybe if
Yes,
you
that's
can't
correct,
walk
Janet.
in it, it's less than 8 feet, but if you can, it's probably 8 feet. So then you're down to 91.7, and so you will be below the groundwater table. But typically, there are many times people are building below the groundwater table, and there is sump pumps and there are water protection areas, and you put the black stuff all around the outside, and right? People do that.
You're absolutely correct. Yes.
In the 50-foot no disturb zone into a rain garden that has minimal acceptance for all that water. I will move on. Let me see. I feel rushed. Okay.
I'm sorry you feel rushed. We were here an awful long time last week.
I
meeting.
understand, and I do my homework is thorough. And
Very thorough.
Can we clarify? So the 50 foot was not determined to be wildlife habitat, right? Did
No.
we enact a 50-foot buffer or is it a 25?
It's a 25-foot buffer.
Okay, so we're looking at the 25-foot as being the no disturb, not the 50.
Okay.
Right. Oh, were you reading from our wetlands protection, from the Needham regulations? When
I
you
wa-
talked about section 2.06?
I was.
Oh, I thought you were talking from the Wetlands Protection Act, but the 50 is if it's all wooded. The 25, thank you for clarifying that, Debbie. The 25 is what we really are holding as the no disturb zone, which they are asking for a waiver in. So I thought you were reciting a number from the Wetlands Protection Act that I didn't know the information off the top of my head on.
Okay. Let me see. It's my understanding that historically the town of Needham was always protective of the wetlands, that it made sure there was a calculation that showed the amount and speed of water toward the wetland before and after construction for different storm events. Am I correct to say that it is 1 inch in regular elevation?
1 inch in regular. So if this was a totally new house with a new garage and a new driveway, and it was bare land, vacant land, they would provide us with a hydrologic calculation using a software typically called HydroCAD, but not always, and which would show the different storm events and the existing going when a rain hits the wooded area and it goes into the wetlands compared to when rain hits a roof or a driveway and then how it goes into the wetlands. And adding some type of a stormwater practice that slows that down because they can't increase the runoff from existing to proposed. So that's typically when it is an addition to an existing house and an existing driveway, they kind of show us the difference in the impervious cover. And then by holding back, by like managing their system for a 1 inch rain event, which happens, lately it's happening more often than it used to happen, but
And
it's not every storm.
Right.
By designing the system to hold the 1 inch rain event and to manage the 1 inch rain event, they are in essence reducing the flow so they're not increasing the runoff between pre and post for all the other storms.
So that would be with a completely empty lot, and I understand in not necessarily wetlands. And again, I just want to say that these are very sensitive. This is a very sensitive area in terms of wetlands and wildlife and soil and all those. And this is a monster addition. I'm worried about it. I'm worried about it for the wetlands and I'm worried about it for my property.
We hear you.
Thank you. And I think maybe to add a little bit of context to my great concern and homework and jeopardizing a lot of the time, I wanted to add an addition to my house about 8 years ago. And I was told it was a difficult process to get it approved because of the high groundwater. I respected the regulations. I felt that doubling the size of the property so close to the wetlands is an abomination. Why can't we ask the developer to respect the regulations, stay within the footprint of the existing foundation, and not disturb this paradise? When the lot was purchased, 4 months previously, a survey was done. He knew the limitations. Several times in the last several meetings, there was discussion about, because of the limitations, we have to do this. And because we can't build here, we have to build there. And I think that's a false equivalency. The because you can't build in the 25 doesn't mean you can throw it in the 50. And the idea of profit over preservation has me tied in knots. And I respectfully request that no work be allowed outside the 50-foot no disturb zone, and that nothing be built there if not on the existing foundation.
Thank you. Thank you for your opinion and your organized notes. Any more? You're completed your statement. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else, Clay?
Yep, we also have, next up, we have someone listed as Fonseca Mosley Ave. So won't I pull them over?
Francesca? You have
Hi,
the
it's
floor?
Susan Fonseca.
Fonseca. Okay, Susan, thank you. Can you-
Yes, Susan. I am a property owner and resident at 11 Mosley Avenue. And my question is about T7. It's a very large tree on the property of 37 Mosley Avenue. It is a healthy tree as determined by the arborist report, I believe, if I'm reading it correctly. It's also inside the 25-foot no disturb zone. The only reason I think it's going to be removed is because it interferes with the deck, which is also in a currently undisturbed and currently undisturbed area of the 25-foot no disturb zone. And because it's one of the larger trees on the property, I'd ask that you carefully consider the impact on the environment for this tree, the wildlife that depends on it, and the entire large root system before allowing anything inside this no disturb zone. I think that it has impact not only for this property, but other properties that will follow with similar requests.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just trying to find that arborist report on T7. I have an old one.
It's on page 6.
T7 is a Norway maple in good condition. It is an invasive species and it is 8 inches in diameter.
Oh, it's one of the larger trees, I believe, on the property that's at the corner of the deck. I might have the number wrong.
Could have been 5. Was it 5?
5 is the big tree that's being protected.
Okay.
6 is a red maple that's in poor health. 8, yeah, I mean, it is listed as being in good health, but it's 8 inches and it's a Norway maple. 8 is also a Norway maple. 9 is also a Norway maple. 10 is a Norway maple. 11 is a red oak, which is to be protected. Okay, so, all right. Anything else?
No, I just oppose the building of a deck or anything inside the 25, and to remove trees in order to allow that to happen is adding insult to injury.
Thank you.
Thanks for your consideration.
Is there anybody else, Clay?
Yep, there is one more hand, Barbara Cataldo. I will move them over.
Barbara Cataldo, you have the floor if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. So I apologize to the committee if I should be redundant in any way. I was at a meeting until about 10 minutes ago, so unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear anything prior. So if I should repeat anything that was said or decided, I hope you'll kindly forgive me, but just let me know. So let me start with that. I work in public schools, and this was a nighttime meeting, and it didn't matter whether I wanted to be there. Just like you're here tonight, I had to be in a public school meeting for the district I work in.
Okay.
So I apologize. So first of all, I want to thank the committee for coming back, because I'm sure you're getting tired of seeing all of us, but we feel like you're family now. I'm curious, a couple of questions, some that are related to the conservation, some that are not. I think I would like to ask Daniel, if he's still on the phone, approximately when he's hoping to have his house finished and put on the market for sale.
So you just have to ask your questions through me.
I'm
And
asking
then
for
I
you.
can ask Daniel if he wants to
Okay.
give us that information.
All right,
So
so I
that's a
apologize,
fair,
Janet.
that's a fair question. So do you have any sense when you plan to start construction and how long construction will take?
It's gonna be really dependent on how long these meetings take, I think. But other than that, the real answer is as soon as possible.
So you're planning, like, let's say you start in June. How long do you expect it to take?
Probably about a year.
1 year. Okay.
Here. Okay, I'm stunned because it seems like such a small property to take a whole year, but that's fine. So thank you for letting me know that. I am curious about a couple of things, and they are all based on the wetlands protection regulations. So if I ask anything that seems clearly ignorant, I apologize in advance and just tell me so. I was kind of curious in terms of, and I am looking at the information that's provided within land within 100 feet of the vegetated wetland per se, but I'm kind of curious because it will obviously close in on the 25-foot buffer zone. Exactly what happens in terms of the erosion and sedimentation controls, what happens in terms of when they dig down and put in a foundation, what is going to happen to all of that soil? Does it get taken away? Is it removed? Is it dissipated somewhere else on the property lines? I only ask that, let me give you the reason why, that we do have a tremendous amount of wildlife. My husband and I, which we do take pride in our property, and the deer have been completely happy with the salad bar that we have provided them with in the past week. Have consumed my entire gardens for the summer, but we went out back because we wanted to do some weeding, and we found a poor raccoon that had been decimated not 3 feet from the grounds of our basement. So we know there's a lot of wildlife around there. We do have a lot of coyotes and other things which don't matter, but this is because we're on wetlands. And so my curiosity is dealing with the erosion and sedimentation controls and what you plan to do about that, because you are removing soil. If I understand correctly, you're putting in basements where there aren't basements currently. If you're changing that footprint of what is currently the foundation, I'm wondering how you're planning to handle that and, you know, maintain the wetlands themselves. And I
So
apologize if I sound totally ignorant,
no,
because I am.
fine. So the applicant has not changed the contours or the grading of any of the existing site. So therefore, and they show an erosion control line that is, well, now I've lost it on this plan, but they, they will be excavating for the basements, and they will need to be taking that material off site. They are not showing a stockpile location, so therefore they will not be able to stockpile material on site because they haven't provided that to us as something as part of this submission. They are showing erosion controls that are outside of their excavated areas. So they will excavate, they will take it away in trucks as they go, they will pour their concrete, and they will start building their building.
Okay, so that will not impact the wetlands and the vegetation, is that?
Yeah, they'll probably have to de-water when they're doing that excavation because they will likely be in the water table. And we will be asking them as part of our order, if we choose to give them an order of conditions, how they intend to de-water, that they will need to provide a plan to us before they actually do the de-watering.
Okay, and that's very fair. So thank you for that explanation. The next question again, because I missed the beginning when I asked this question, please tell me if I'm being redundant. I'm just trying to understand. I respect the fact that the builder is trying to modify the garden system to stay within all the different zones of things that we've put forward and you have asked of them. Can someone explain to me in terms of the garden system abutting a property? I understand it's the garage, but it's still wood that abuts that garage. There's wood on there. So if there's wood on there, having the water garden abut the property, one, there's two parts here. One, how does that impact the materials of the house and long-term viability of the house? And two, in terms of the site plan, it does make, and I know this might sound like a minor detail, but it talks about in number 3 of the notes on the site plan on page 1 of what they deposited into the Dropbox this week, the fact that the runoff will be discharged into 2 garden systems shown on the plan. There's currently 1 garden system obviously shown on the plan. So I don't know if that changes it. And 2, I just respectfully ask that if they're going to change the plans, and I appreciate that they want to work within the parameters that have been set before them, to make sure that it's all done with clarity, because you either do everything correctly or you leave a sense of mistrust because of the lack of transparency, which is sort of how I'm feeling the lack of mistrust, not because I want to feel that way, but I feel like it's not completely transparent. We clearly are a tight neighborhood. I'm sure you've all figured that out by now. I'm very fortunate to have grown up in this town and lived here more than half a century, and this road in particular. But at the same time, I'm really concerned that the site plan isn't reflective of the plan. And at the same time, I want to understand how can the guard system suddenly abut the house and not have any kind of negative impact on its location? Thank you.
So I'm looking for this note you said about the 2.
On page 1, under the notes, number 3, approximately 3,156 square foot roof
Thank you.
runoff to be discharged in 2 garden systems shown on the plan.
Okay, so that's a typographical error that they will have to change that to say 1 garden system. Because now they used to have 2 and now they have 1. Now, and when you talk about the wood of the house, so the garden is lower than the garage and the house. The contours are like 96 and is kind of what they're showing is, and the finished floor elevation of the existing house is 99.7. He said that's coming up a little bit. The garage is also coming up a little bit. So the garage and the house will be higher than the garden.
Okay.
So they're higher. So the reason for the 10-foot separation is because of the water infiltrating into the ground and not wanting the water. That's also why it's 10 feet from the property line, not wanting it to go into the basement or go into the abutting property. So that's the idea of the 10 feet. That is not a lot of water, groundwater being pushed from a garden system into a basement. There's no basement in this garage, so that is not a concern.
Okay, and Janet, just so I understand, again, it's my ignorance and my missing the beginning because I was at a meeting. So when you talk about the 10 feet, is that between the side of the garage and where the actual garden system begins? Because obviously in the picture, it doesn't look like that at all.
Right, the 10-foot minimum that's in the picture, like there's a detail that they show on page 3 of 5 that shows the typical downspout. That shows a 10-foot minimum from a foundation wall to the garden.
Okay.
But they have more than 10 feet because they have the entire garage. They
Okay,
have 22 feet.
all right, and I understand. So you understand that because it is a picture it's hard to differentiate sometime. We're not trying to be difficult.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not-
yeah, yeah, I get it, I get it, yeah,
I don't read
Uh,
these things every day for a living like
Yep.
you do.
yep.
So, all right, so then it wouldn't be an impact. So then if you have runoff from the roof at the garage, and I don't know whether the pitch will be in the front or down the side or whatever, but if there is runoff from the roof into the garden system, I mean, will that and I'm asking as just a point of reference, will that impact the amount of water that falls into the wetlands negatively? Will it not make a difference? Does it, that the garden system wants to catch all that water? I just need some
Well,
help understanding.
Right, so the garden system should mitigate for the additional impervious cover that they've added to the property. It will not, it may reduce some of the water immediately going in, because right now there's nothing, the gutters just go into the wetland, basically, they come off the house and go in. So, it will direct all of the runoff towards this garden system, and that will then overflow to the wetland. But it should be a comparable existing to proposed is the idea.
Okay. And then just so you all understand, all my questions are really driven by the fact that it's clearly that I'm naive, because up until the last meeting, I actually thought Saybrook was building this property for themselves, not to resell to somebody else. So all this time I'm thinking we're getting new neighbors and these are our new neighbors, when in reality, I think I'm understanding they're not going to be our new neighbors.
They're not going to be your new.
They're not going to be our new neighbors. I understand. But when you've grown up in Needham as long as I have, and I have a 5-digit bank account at the Needham Bank, you can understand why I'm sort of living in the past, not in the present. So forgive me.
I have a 4-digit number.
Oh my God, you've been here longer than I have, and I've been here. I won't tell you how long. I hold a Medicare card. Okay, so I apologize. All right, the next thing I just wanted to ask is, again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful for the builder, but it is, and I know they sent us a single page, which I think was supposed to serve as the before picture versus the after. Through all of these, I've been very patient in trying to understand what's the actual dwelling, what are the iterations of the actual new building pieces, and I am concerned about the new porch that's going to be in the front of the building, and what's going to support that porch again. I'm sorry for being redundant, but I don't know what supports that porch in the front that was originally really, really small and then became really, really big. I think I'm looking here, the original proposed addition, and I could be wrong, where it says 3.9 times 12 times 12.2. Then it says proposed porch 29.5 times 6.7. That is not the porch that's out there, obviously. So can someone help me to understand, is that like a freestanding porch? Is there anything under it? Is it foundation? What is it?
So that's a fair question, because I think we've talked about the other, like the proposed addition on both sides is a full basement. There's actually 3 proposed additions, right? 3 proposed additions. Is the proposed porch have a full basement, or is it on a slab, or what's it on?
The proposed porch will have a full basement.
The proposed porch also has a full basement. Okay, so there's a proposed porch, there's a proposed, now on the plan I'm looking at, which is sheet,
I'm on page 1 I'm looking at.
I'm on sheet 2 of 5, but the
Okay.
proposed porch says 29.5 times, and it doesn't show the next number, so.
That's on page 1. It does show it as being times 6.7.
Yeah, so I'm just telling the applicant, make sure that the 6.7 shows up on page 2. So there's a proposed porch, 29.5 times 6.7. There's a proposed addition, that's 3.9 times 12.2. There's a proposed addition, that's 11.9 times 18. And a proposed addition, that's 18 times 6.8. So they're trying to kind of square off the whole thing. The existing porch was 5.2 times 8.6.
Oh,
So yeah, they've made it almost 3 times bigger than the existing porch.
Sure. And so again, ignorance is bliss, but understanding if they're putting in a full foundation below, how does that impact all of the wetlands because he's pushing out into the wetlands? Is it that we're not worried about it? Is it that it does have an impact? Is it something you're not worried about because this is not something the commission worries about? I don't know, but every time you dig down, or as somebody digs down into the earth to add to the structure, I have to say, you know, every action has a reaction. So we're displacing soil to put the foundation in. What is the after effect on the wetlands, on the wildlife, on the vegetation?
Well, this particular area of the porch, so yes, there's a lot of excavation going around this. They will remove the soil, yes. The actual, the biggest impact that I believe on the wetland is during construction and this excavating and the machinery that's out there. Once the house is built, it's like they are managing the runoff, which is one of our concerns. You know, they are kind of removed. You know, we don't like to see trees be removed. However, the trees that they're removing, they've kind of demonstrated that they are not healthy trees for the most part, besides the two very large ones. And there's a healthy Norway maple that is in there. But, and then they're planting new trees and new shrubbery and new plants. So it's always nice to leave things exactly as they stand, but that's not necessarily realistic.
I understand, and we know that over the last 20 years, Needham has not really turned down too many larger homes for what was smaller properties, having been here forever like yourself. And that's just a side comment, but I do recognize that it's progress, it's moving forward, but I have to say that I'm totally concerned about the fact of the impact of what it will have on the rest of our houses. I've lived this wonderful life where I haven't had intense flooding. I worry when we expand these basements, will we have intense flooding out of the blue? And if we do suddenly have intense flooding, do I then turn around and go to Saybrook and say, you owe me some money for all the damage that's been created, which I don't think is possible based on how this happened. So I want to make sure it's right. And I, of course, want to make sure that we're taking care of the wetlands, because that's why I moved here. That is why the wetlands are here. And that's why they've been protected all these years. All right, my last point, because I don't want to, drag on. I realize you've all stayed here very late and probably had day jobs that you'd like to have a breather. But the last thing I just wanted to understand is the stormwater management that's going to take place as a result of increasing the footprint in the land. And I know we're going to build up, and I know there's going to be a roof line, and we're going to have some kind of drainage system, but I'm just kind of curious what will happen as they increase the footprint in the ground, which is the reality. What is going to happen to the stormwater management the system in terms of trying to figure out what happens to the value of the ground? In terms of we're expanding it, is it going to cause more flooding? Is it going to cause, the vegetation to die? What is going to happen by putting in a larger footprint in this ground?
Well, what's going to happen? Like, that's an interesting statement because I don't think of it that way. Their task is to make sure that they're not increasing the stormwater offsite, which is why they provided this garden system that is not very high above the groundwater, but it is above the groundwater. I guess I don't really know how to answer that question because I feel like I've never heard it. Maybe is anybody else in the commission wanna?
It's a crystal ball question for sure.
I'm like,
start with that.
I don't know what to tell you.
But
It's like
the reality is, everything, you displace something, it's got to go somewhere. I understand that's the law of physics. So we're taking this wetland and we're expanding the footprint of the house with concrete. Something's got to happen to all the moisture and the water and all the drainage system that's in there. It's not going to be perfect. We know. Where is it all going to go in the end? It's got to either go into the street and roll down the street. It's got to go into our basements, which it hasn't been in yet.
This property is kind of at the low point. So the wetlands is lower than the property, and the property is kind of lower than everybody else on the street. They're at the bottom. So it's unlikely that the water's going back uphill to everybody else's basements. It's going to the wetland, yes, but it's also being managed in their rain garden system. That's what they were tasked to do, to manage this additional runoff from the additional roof building.
Okay, and I understand that, but just so you know, the reality of what happens in the rain, and I'm, again, not trying to be protracted in the argument, please understand, but poor Harold's house, when it goes into that grass, it does cross the street, gets into the creek behind us, then runs behind our houses, and I unfortunately am the closest recipient to the creek pretty much, and definitely the recipient of having a few sump pumps to fend off the water. So yes, I totally understand what you're saying, but it doesn't just sit on that property. It actually expands out, and it does run into the creek that's behind all of our houses on the opposite side of the road. So I'm being selfish here, because I don't want to lose any value in my home. I don't really want to invest in excessive pump systems. So that's why I'm asking, if you're going to push out and put a new footprint in it into the ground there, then you're going to obviously have to push the water somewhere. And I fear that it's going to come across the street into the creek, as it has all the other rainstorms without an addition. But now we put an addition in, forcing it really into the creek. And we've had a lot of floods in the last year that we had never anticipated. The creek has gone up above the edges because of obviously climate change. And I have to think about that. But now we're expanding the footprint of the house. And I'm thinking the water's got to go somewhere. So where's it going to land? In my basement? And so I'm being really selfish, not trying to be difficult, but I obviously don't want to be suffering the consequences of regular flooding. That's all.
Right, and which is why they are required to put in a stormwater system, and they are meeting that requirement. So we are tasked with protecting the wetland. We are tasked with not flooding out the neighbors. That is one of the, and the responsibilities of the Conservation Commission. But if they provide us with the calculations to show that they are managing the stormwater for their additional runoff, that's all we can ask them to do. We cannot have them, that's just all we got. Unless anybody, any other commission members have anything to add here?
That's really the best we can do.
Yeah. So in thinking, and I totally appreciate that. Nobody has a crystal ball. My question is, of course, in the end, if something happens, they build and all of a sudden we have excessive flooding, do we come back to the commission and say, guess what? Is it too late? Do we go to the builder and say, hey, something has to be up because it didn't happen? I'm just being very selfish from the value of my home.
Yeah, I hear you. And I understand that there's, other properties in Needham that have similar concerns as soon as they have a house going up next to them, and not even when it's a wetland.
Mhm.
But as long as we have the calculations to support the displacement, what more can we do?
Totally understandable. I don't want you to think this is to protract an argument. That's not the goal. It's my being selfish about the value of my house.
I'm with you. I've been through something.
Yeah, and we
house there.
appreciate that. We appreciate that. We just can't, we can't change the information we have. We have what they are been providing what we were asking for. So I can't say anything else about that.
That's okay. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me. This is just a very fearful person who's lived in this town an incredibly long time. And I just want to make sure that I continue to be a contributor to the town, because I haven't moved out, despite the fact all this white hair has said I should have moved away, or at least moved to North Hill. I haven't. I'm staying in my house, and that's where I want to stay. But I don't want to stay scooping water out of the basement.
Barbara, I totally understand where you're coming from.
I'm too old to take the buckets out. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have cared. Today, I do. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do have a good evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Clay, anybody else?
Janet,
Yes.
me again. I'm wondering if we should pull the deck.
Pull what about the deck? All the way, completely, move
I
it
don't know.
forward? What do you want to do about the deck?
No, I don't, what are the other, what does everyone else think?
Was anybody else able to go over to the property that Sue and I visited?
There's
to the
nothing,
property.
there's nothing else that we can do about the basement issues and the calculations that we've gotten for the runoff, right?
Right.
So-
Done the calculations. Dave wants to check them again, so we're gonna, we're gonna let Dave do another check of the calculations. He wasn't able to be here tonight, and we're asking the applicant to add markers and add the trees. And I do think that that deck is maybe doesn't need to be out quite as far as it's shown. But
I agree.
so right now they're showing a proposed deck that's 15 by 18. And it looks like it's maybe the 16, I think that's the existing. So it's maybe 10 feet from the wetland. I kind of think it's gonna be pretty buggy sitting out there on that deck, but so. Anybody have an opinion?
Sue, is your
Stephen?
concerns setting a precedent? Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped.
No,
ahead.
go, yeah, no, yeah, well, that is part of my concern is setting a precedent. We have allowed decks or patios when it's when there's no other space and it's an existing lawn. This is not a lawn, it is disturbed. The where it says existing shed to be removed is really a large wood pile that has a small roof over it. So it's definitely disturbed area that is not vegetated particularly, and but it's not a lawn. So it is not our standard to get this close to the wetland ever. And this is very unusual for us to allow something this close. I don't know when the last time was.
I feel we've done everything we can. I guess Dave's gonna recheck the calculations. The displacement with the basements is, what is, and it's covered by the calculations with the storm system with the rain garden. So I feel there's nothing more we can do there, but we can say something about the deck.
Are the pilings, are they going to be within the 25-foot buffer, or are they going to be outside? Because that's really the only ground disturbance that's happening associated
I
with the
think,
deck.
I guess I'll ask Daniel that question, but looking at it, they would have to be within the 25 feet because there's only like 2 feet. It's a 18 by 6, it's a 15 by 18 foot deck. And probably 3 feet are outside the 25 feet.
You're correct, Janet.
Daniel, can you explain how big the helical piles are? What's the diameter?
Maybe about 3 to 4 inches,
Yes,
not large. Minimum
Exactly.
disturbance is something that people typically use in wetlands and for docks and for other purposes in water areas with wildlife.
With like boardwalks too, through
Yes.
wetlands. So the ground disturbance would only be very minimal.
correct.
For the deck. I mean,
Yep.
granted, they're gonna dig a 6.8 by 18-foot big foundation directly next to it.
Have we
That's
ever
outs-
allowed,
But that's outside the 25.
That's
where
outside the
curbs
25.
zone, So that wouldn't set any. That wouldn't.
True.
there are 3 pilings within the 25-foot.
Yes. 3
Have we-
helical piles.
Have we ever allowed this before? This far
Well,
out?
we have allowed, like, for boardwalks and stuff, as, Paulina noted, we have allowed, and we've allowed
Corners of decks.
patios. And this is above the ground, so the wildlife, and there's gonna be planted, so wildlife in theory could go under the deck. It's gonna be like 5 feet off the ground and with vegetation under it.
And that's really not going to affect, that water's going to run right through it. So that's not
The
going to
water's
affect.
gonna go through the deck. And the driveway is permeable pavers. So when water hits the driveway, that will go into the ground. When water hits the deck, it will go through the deck. When water hits the roof, it will be collected in the gutter system and be directed to the garden, the rain garden with pipes and stone, and overflow will go to the wetlands in the back. As you know,
I could
heavy rains.
go for the deck. I think what a dependent factor here is what Dave's recalculations of the storm system. That's the big issue, right?
Yeah, we want to make sure that the storm system is designed properly. That it has been designed by an engineer. There are calculations. Dave will confirm that those calculations are correct. But it is also, it's the design engineer's responsibility to make sure that those calculations are correct and that the system will work as designed, because that is our requirement that they that it's doing what it's supposed to do. So
And also, the planting plan will hold, will be a retaining factor for the stormwater too, once all the
Definitely.
plants get.
the plants will soak up the water. Mhm. In the spring, in the spring, summer, fall, but not in the winter. So just to kind of keep that in mind. Any other commission members have any comments? Peter, Peter?
Yeah, so a couple things. I once again, I think that the neighbors' concern about the sloppiness of the plans and emissions and that sort of thing, I think is warranted. The arborist report itself, which Deb just sent us, is dated July 13th, 2017, which is obviously a typo, but it shows a sort of a lack of, attention to detail, it seems to me. But at any rate,
So the arborist report got redone?
well, there's the one that Deb just sent around that I opened up just now is dated July 13th, 2017.
Because it had been dated April 18th, 2023.
I don't know.
Interesting.
But at any rate, so the real thing I wanted to ask was, since we're in nesting season right now, I would really like trees not to be removed until the middle of July. And that's not a request I've made before. It's just something that came to mind in all this tree removal talk, that now that we're into nesting season, you have a real potential of disturbance if people are just taking trees down in June.
Peter, if that makes you happy, we can definitely do that. It's still going to be a process for us to get through the building department. July's not too far off. That's fine.
Okay, we can add that into any condition that we decide to issue for this project. Anybody else from the commission have anything more to add? I think, to be honest, my opinion about this deck is that I would like it not to extend past the existing house. I think, and unless you can give me a really solid reason why it needs to continue past that edge, it looks like it maybe is another 5 feet. So instead of 15 by 18, can you have it 10 by 18? And would that be manageable? So that it doesn't pass the existing house.
Worst case scenario, that's something we can manage, but that's something we can come back to at a later date.
We can go back to it. Okay, so at the moment, we have asked for 6 markers, tree placement. And I guess I would like an arborist report that has the correct date, and any other edit, these minor typos on the plan sets. We would appreciate it being clean. That would be great. Anybody else? So you want to come back in 2 weeks? Karen?
I have a comment.
Yes, Paulina?
In terms of plans, is it possible when you clean it up to maybe have a separate plan that's not as busy with all the words? And so it's easier to see where the existing and the proposed work is located.
Yeah, it would be nice to have an existing conditions plan that just shows the house, the existing house. And it could have the erosion control on it if you'd like, that would be helpful. So you have an existing house with a hay bale line, and it has an existing garage and an existing driveway.
Not a problem, and that's something we actually do have, and I'm not sure why you didn't receive it in the most recent package that we submitted.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. And then I know we have asked for like a colored, I think. Sheet 4. 4 is almost the cleanest. Oh, it has a site plan. Like understanding like the footprint of the proposed has been a little confusing. So that's been something that we've always been a little confused on, exactly what this proposed house looks like. But start with the existing house. An existing existing conditions plan with the erosion controls on it, and maybe we'll be able to figure out what the proposed house looks like. Anything else? Okay. Would you like to continue this until May? When's our next?
25,
May
25.
25th? Continue till May 25th?
Yes, please.
Move that we
No.
continue 37 Mosley until May 25th.
Can I have a second?
Second,
All in favor? Paulina,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Sue? Aye. Peter?
aye.
Yeah, aye. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for
Yep.
all in attendance and everybody's help here.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
You too. Okay, 36 Elder Road, DP file number 234899. This is a continued notice of intent. Clay, you want to catch us up on this? Hi, Diane. Oh, you want to state your
Hi.
name for the record?
Sure, Diane from Field Resources. I'm here for 36 Elder this evening to kind of go over a few additional comments that we talked about during the last meeting. We talked briefly about how whether or not this particular project, Clay and I sat down, we went over the bylaws and what he had learned through some of the seminars, which that as a applicant is very scary when you hear somebody say, I've been to a seminar. But yeah, so we sat down, we went over a couple things. So I think we've come up with something that's comparable for, or I should say, something that should be sufficient to pass muster with DEP. If I can share my screen, I can go over a couple of the things that I have set up for you all this evening.
Sure.
Okay. So here we have the plan. We have the existing and the proposed. Again, very similar to what we had before. We did some additional calculations and I did some pre-area calculations and I kind of broke it down for us. Oh, where did that go? There we go. So the existing house is here. We have the house with the patio, the deck, there's a stairway here. There's a handicap ramp, the driveway. This is the shed with a we'll loosely say a port for, not a carport, but it was a boat that was, there was something or storage underneath it, but it is impervious. And this is that wood pile that we talked about. And that's one thing Clay and I guess didn't see eye to eye with, and that's something that I was going to present to the board. That is that rather large pile of logs, and it's stacked. And I can see that as being impervious. Clay didn't seem, Clay and I didn't really see eye to eye on that. And that's the one thing that I did add in as impervious, but we can take that out. But irregardless, the calculations still work with or without this.
Yeah,
So this-
I personally, I guess just listening to that, I have a hard time saying that pile of logs was impervious.
Okay.
I can give you the boat, but I can't give you the logs. That's my personal opinion. I don't know if anybody else has an opinion, but
Sure.
But
Again-
it's like habitat and all sorts of good stuff, like, you know.
Right.
Janet-
Again, the
Sorry,
calculation.
Janet, did you think it was pervious or impervious?
I think it's not impervious, so it's pervious.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, okay, so that you differ from what Clay thinks.
No, I
No.
agree with Clay.
I,
I
I,
agree with Clay.
I don't believe that the log pile qualifies as impervious, at least
Yeah.
not by the intention of the regulations.
I would agree with you. Why would Diane, why do you think it's,
Impervious.
If you were to say it's huge logs. And they are stacked like a teepee, and you know.
We do
and
have
very
pictures.
bare and just like kind of like shingles. Where is that water gonna run? It runs, outward and it sheets off the wood. But again, the calculations for the impervious work regardless, and as far as restoration. But again, it's and I don't believe I have a picture on this computer, but it does, it is stacked like a teepee and the water would just flow right off.
Okay.
And I don't know if you agree with me, but that's kind of my, but
Okay.
irregardless-
Fair call. We don't agree with you.
regardless, I think the calculations work regardless.
Okay.
So with this all, we come up with 3198.3 square feet. And then we go into post. And with that, we kind of broke it down a little bit more in the sense that we have the existing house minus the pervious patio and walks. We also have the driveway.
This is existing or proposed now?
This is the proposed.
Okay.
So with that, we have the house at 2293. We added 8 square feet that we took off the house because that is actually, when we broke it down originally, that was in the the buffer. We broke this down based on the 100-foot buffer to the BVW.
Oh, that,
Um,
okay.
Yeah. 34 square feet is the bulkhead, 72, honestly, I forget what that is for. And then,
Front steps or something.
yeah, and then another stoop in the back, and that comes out to the 2247. So again, you know, if we look at the numbers, we have, let's see, let's go back.
I'm sorry, that was a little confusing because I wasn't sure. You have two sets of numbers. Can you identify which each one of them means again?
Sure, let me just go back.
I think we've understood this one. Do we understand this one? Because it's 3191 existing minus the 41 that we don't agree with. So we're at 3180. No, I didn't do that right.
3198.
50. Well, it's not 3198 because you're subtracting 41.
Right, so it comes to 3157.
57. Okay, that's better. 0.3. Okay, so existing, we have 3157.3. Got it.
Right. So, so again, yeah, so we go over here to, these are the calculations for impervious in regards to house and structure.
Is that proposed or is that?
This is correct. This is proposed.
So you're, that's what. it
I'm
would
sorry,
look
I'm
like
sorry, you're right.
after.
I'm looking at the wrong list. So this here, I'm sorry, well, the 20, this one here is slightly different. This takes into account all the, this was the original patio, including this patio, which again, we've made that impervious. So this was a previous calculation, including the patio, which again, now is pervious.
Oh,
So,
okay. So the
yeah.
360 is now pervious patio.
Correct.
And the
Correct.
1208,
The 1208 is the driveway.
but that's impervious.
No, that is not.
Pervious pavers in
Yeah.
the driveway also.
No, that is impervious. I'm sorry, I misheard you.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we have, yeah, so we have the house at 2293, and we have 2293, the 8 square feet. And then let me just make sure I have my numbers right here.
It seems like it would be the calculation that's on the left-hand side, you would just be subtracting the 360. Is that correct?
Right, I think. Correct. It
So
would
we're at
be,
3,727 square
Well,
feet of impervious.
again, it's, let me just see here. It's the house, which is 2293. Then it will be the 1208. And the, yeah. The 2447. And the 1208. So let's just bring that up together. And I think this is all on the plan. 47, 222. Plus the 1208. Plus, let's see, I'm sorry, I had a fat finger there. 2447.
4015, isn't that what you have right there?
But then the
The
Well,
three.
we subtracted the
360.
360. So I have,
The
if you just,
3655,
yeah, I have 3655.
right,
Okay, so that's proposed is 3655.
correct,
The existing was 3157. So the difference, is that what we care about now?
correct.
So the difference is basically 500 square feet, 497.7. Does other people agree with that?
Mhm.
agree with that.
Okay, so can we just say 500 to make our math a little easier?
Sure,
Okay, so now what happens? We have 500 additional impervious area.
right, so then we'll go to the plan that we have. So the proposed plan that we came to with had 470 square feet in this area. Additionally, we have this little part that was, again, unvegetated, edge of lawn, which is approximately 500 square feet of area that will go back to naturally vegetated area.
And Clay, is that the idea, is they take whatever additional impervious area and give back 1-to-1?
Generally for redevelopment, when you're over the 10% of the lot as being degraded, in this case impervious, we're looking at impervious numbers.
But it's not degraded. I mean, it's not 10%. Okay, like, sorry, more than 10% of the lot is impervious or degraded?
In this for impervious, I believe the regs kind of bounce back and forth between degraded, which they have a very finite definition on, and previously developed. The way that DEP handled the last appeal primarily stuck on impervious in a case like this. So we look at the net increase, it's over the impervious on the lot under the existing conditions is over 10% of the lot size. I think
Okay,
about 16%. They
so
have,
what does that mean? Okay, so we agree with the impervious, existing impervious is more than 10% over the lot size. We agree with that. Now what?
so they have the right to keep the impervious the same. They can match like 1-for-1 on impervious surface if the footprint were exactly the same but shifted or otherwise, that would be allowed. For net impervious increases, net increases to impervious, they would have to mitigate 2-to-1.
So does that mean 2-to-1 over the 500 square feet? Is that the idea? So they need 1,000 square feet?
Correct.
What is the definition of mitigate though? How do you mitigate for impervious?
Reclamation of the riverfront area. So in this case, renaturalization. Generally, mitigation is it's an area base. At least.
Right, so the DEP made it clear that they don't count adding plantings to an area that already has plantings. They really are looking for you to give up lawn area and allowing that to renaturalize.
If you're giving up, the instance where they accept 1-to-1 is where you're giving up or restoring degraded areas. So the 1-to-1 would come into play if say the backyard were paved and they were removing that and then restoring it, or just removing the impervious conditions. In a scenario like this, it would be 2-to-1, where the restoration is at the back of the lot and the impervious we're dealing with is further up front.
What happens if the existing impervious is less than 10%? Do they like not get to do anything?
If it's less than 10%, I believe they have the right to expand up to 10%.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
got it. All right, so
that applies to lots that were created prior to the 1996 date, that August, I think it's August 7th or something, 1996.
okay, so that
So
would
there's certain
mean,
things that are exempt from the, and that's kind of where, we start taking away. So for instance, the bulkhead does, the bulkhead's a little iffy in the sense that it says replacing a bulkhead. We're replacing it. Well, yeah, kind of, because we do have a bulkhead that we're putting in. There's the steps and the stoops, some of those things, it does say that those things are exempt.
oh,
The proposed sheds are exempt. So these are some of the items that can be removed from that calculation. And
but then the existing would also get removed from the calculation. So if you're gonna remove the proposed, you're gonna remove the existing, right? So we could just, are we comparing just house to house?
So the argument that's being made now is that some of these areas that are in the current calculations for impervious surface are activities that would otherwise qualify as exempt minor activities. So I think what Diane is arguing is that if they removed the shed and didn't, if they removed the proposed shed and then came back in the future for the shed, it could come back as an exempt minor activity under a separate just action, because it's more than the 50 feet away from the mean annual high water.
But I think even if she does that, I think it's still currently impervious surface. So you cannot just take away that it doesn't, you can't say it doesn't exist if it exists, is what I think.
But if they took it away now and they said, okay, we're not gonna have that shed, so that doesn't count in the numbers. And then they built this house, and then in 2 years, they say, we want to put a shed in, but the shed is now within, the new shed is now within the 200-foot riverfront area, but it's closer than the existing impervious because now the old shed is gone. I don't think they're allowed to do that, are they? Or is the shed exempt?
I think activities also within the, let me see, activities within the buffer zone that are considered minor, I think they have to be at least 50 feet away.
Right, which it is.
Okay,
Right.
so they could come back in 2 years and build their shed and that would be okay?
That's what I believe. After reading the regs.
I believe that on a standalone, that would be something that would be approved. With the Needham bylaw for buffer zone exempt activities, it'd be 75 feet. But under the Wetlands Protection Act, and when dealing with riverfront, it's 50 feet. More than 50 feet away, certain accessory structures are exempt from filing, including, I don't have the regs in front of me, but I believe that sheds are one of those accessory structures that are falling under exempt.
It is, yes. But, and I know this is something we're all kind of working our way through. I'm just trying to better understand it for future projects as well.
So
So
I
I
guess,
know this doesn't help right now, but I was gonna bring up later that we did get an email from DEP that there's still lots of confusion around about the riverfront regs. So they are offering to have 2 more sessions that commissioners can go to, as well as staff, one of them being on Monday. So I will forward that to the commission so you have an opportunity to.
okay, so, but Diane, what I am seeing is that, wait a minute, I might even, so. If you took, so that line with the X's on it is your fence, is your
Right,
erosion control, and the X's to the property line and the hatch, that's your proposed planting, which is 471 square feet. And then you're gonna add little bit. If you took that 120-foot length of property and took another 4 feet, you'd meet your 1,000. So.
right. So what I was,
Are we arguing about 5 feet?
so, well, I'm not arguing, I'm just, again, I mean, I'm here to kind of balance, what the regulations ask us to do and, like, so what I'd like to propose maybe is to bring the fence back to the proposed shed and right across the back line. I'm not sure if that's, I don't believe that's going to be 4 feet. It might be 2.5, 3 feet. And restore all that behind the fence for this planting area. I'm looking at it now, so.
Difference. I appreciate that. If it's 2.5 feet, and it was, 4 and it was supposed to, so.
We can do that. So why don't I do that in the condition? If we can do if we choose to close it tonight, if you choose to close it tonight, I can bring that fence forward, restore everything behind the proposed shed. So again, the fencing will come right up to the back of the shed. One side of the fence will come up to it and the other side will go to the opposite side. So we'll have, a good chunk of additional planting area that would also be mitigated with these proposed plantings.
Anybody have an opinion? Stephen?
It just seems kind of, and again, I know we're just trying to deal with the regulations, but what's to stop somebody in the future, 5 years from now, just taking those shrubs out and putting the lawn back to the property line? They won't
Well-
have any idea they're not supposed to do that. Because
Well-
this agreement will be like 6 or 10 years old.
Well, this is a fence. That
Yeah,
we
so
could
somebody's gonna
have,
take, if I buy that house 10 years from now, I take the fence out, oh, my property line's 10 feet back, I'm gonna put the fence 10 feet back and I'm gonna make that new lawn.
well, we can put monuments up on the fence.
Yeah, we could put markers.
Okay, I mean, so again, they're not. Usually we put these markers at the 25-foot buffer, they kind of mean something. I mean, there's a different set of markers we're gonna use, because I don't know.
Well, the markers aren't specific to the buffer.
Okay,
They say conservation land or something, don't they?
Correct.
all right.
Yeah. So I think we could
I
put
guess so.
markers up, 3 markers.
On the fence.
Because otherwise, what would you suggest? I mean, I think we could
Yeah, I
have.
don't have a good idea. I
But they
mean,
couldn't, they could do the same thing, take all those, you know.
at least the
um,
markers are, they just give you some warning, right? I mean, as long
Yeah.
as they're there.
And do we have, this is an order of conditions that would go with the land, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gets recorded somehow.
Well, that's one thing, honestly, as the board, I would love to see, when you record the order of conditions, it's obviously required. And I know the order is really what you're supposed to follow, but the plan, I feel, if you get an order from, without bugging Debbie or Clay or other agents, it would be lovely if even if it's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper is recorded with the order. Just for
That's a good idea.
people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it doesn't have to be a large scale, just because it's something, you know, that goes along with the write-up, and it's, you know, most people, it would be helpful for most people, you know, most people don't read through the whole order, honestly.
Right, right. I
just
agree with
look
you.
at the
That's
picture.
really a pretty good idea to do. I don't know. Depending on the sheet we get, I mean, because sometimes we'd have to make it small, but anyway, that's something that we can definitely think about and start attaching a plan to we definitely reference the plan in the order.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely, we just don't necessarily attach that plan, but that's not a bad idea. Peter?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're sticking to 2 to 1, this works.
Yeah, so it's not gonna be exactly 2 to 1, but it's gonna be closer than it is now. It's almost like 1
And
and a
I think-
half to 1. A little more.
With that little bump and the actual numbers, because I think it's 280 basically, or 290.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, not 4.
497.7.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. So it's not actually 1,000, it's 990. Okay, every foot counts. Paulina, anything else? Sue?
It sounds good.
Yeah, I would just like, if people are comfortable closing the hearing tonight, I would like to say that I guess we need a plan
Right, we can
that
condition the
shows
plan.
what this is. And I would like it to be at least 3 feet from where it is right now.
Okay, 3 feet. So if we condition a new plan, we'll condition, how many markers did you want?
3,
Just 3 on the fence?
yeah. A property line and in the middle.
Okay.
It's
and
a
I'll
straight
also-
line.
Right, well, yes, I'm gonna add a little bit, and what I'll do is I'll add a couple more plantings as well, to kind of beef up that little notch out. Add a couple more plants. To the plan. And again, I know it's been a little bit, I don't have it on my screen this evening, but you did get a planting plan, so I can upgrade that, like I say, with the proposed planting area, a couple additional plantings, and I will show the placards as well.
Great.
I'll put them on the plan.
Okay, so, well, we don't have, an order to, we can't issue it tonight anyway, because we don't have one to review, but we can close the hearing.
Mhm.
Well, it's not gonna benefit you much for us to close the hearing. You're gonna give us the
Either way.
plan. All
As
right, so
long
we will just continue it, but we'll be able to be fast next time.
Sure.
All right, great. Anybody else? Anybody in the audience have anything to add about this?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, so anybody else? Or are we ready to continue this hearing till May 25th?
I move that we continue 36 Elder Road to May 25th.
I second.
All in favor, Peter,
Hi.
Paulina,
I
Sue,
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Yeah, aye. Great, thank you very much, Diane.
Okay, and I do have one question, Deb. Is that meeting on Monday night for anybody or just commissioners?
No, it literally says not for the public. So,
Maybe you
Sorry.
could hang out with the community.
yeah, I'll report back.
Okay. Again, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, where are we at? Oh, we did Olin. Okay, guess we are at 324 Meadowbrook Road, DP. Oh, we do not have a file number for 34 Meadowbrook Road yet. We can discuss this, open the hearing, but we cannot close the hearing. So is there somebody here? I have my cheat. Brett Reese.
I'm here.
Ah, Susan McCarthy. Haven't seen. Did I get your name on McCarthy?
MacArthur. Yeah, and it's 34 Meadowbrook Road, not 334.
Thank you. 34 Meadowbrook Road. I need somebody to be paying attention to what I'm saying.
And Brett Reese here from the homeowner.
Great, thank you very much. Okay.
All
Please
right,
have
so,
the floor.
okay, thank you. So again, I'm Susan MacArthur from MacArthur Environmental Consulting, here with Brett Reese, the property owner and applicant. And we've filed a notice of intent for work within the 200-foot riverfront area to Rosemary Brook. The parcel is 0.73 acres and it contains a single family home with an attached 2-car garage, a back deck, bituminous driveway, brick paver, front walkway, planting beds, and a maintained lawn. A portion of the backyard is fenced in. I think it would help. Would it be okay if I shared my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Assume that you have heard this whole discussion that we just had about riverfront and how that may or may not impact your project.
Yeah, I've heard it. I'm sure we'll get to that. Topography at the property, it gradually slopes down toward the river. The house is located around elevation 100 and the bank of Rosemary Brook is about at 92 feet. Rosemary Brook is a perennial stream. It flows through the back and the side of the property. And it is confined to a 10-foot wide concrete lined channel, as most of Rosemary Brook is. There are no bordering vegetated wetlands associated with it on this property. So the proposed project consists of constructing a new addition and a deck off the back of the house. It's shaded here. The existing raised deck will be demolished. So it's hard to see, but there is see that slight line right there? That's where the existing deck is right now. And so that's going to be raised, taken down. And a new 325 square foot addition is proposed off the back of the house. and a new 500 square foot deck is being proposed. So within the same footprint of the existing deck, as well as a little bit of lawn. The addition will be 2 stories and it will have a full foundation. And no trees are proposed to be removed as a result of this project. There is a little, as you can see, this is a 50-foot buffer. There is a little bit of work within the 50-foot, but like I said, the existing deck is within right now. So this will be this. These are existing stairs, but this part will be new. A dry well is proposed to capture clean rooftop runoff from the new addition, and the gutters will direct the rooftop runoff to the dry well to provide recharge to the ground.
Are you only required to recharge the addition, or are you required to recharge any of the existing house? According to the town of Needham stormwater regulations. There's a regulation that basically says if it's 25%, if it's 50%, if it's 100%, like depending on the size of the addition depends on what you're required to do.
Oh, okay. That I would have to check on. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, so check on the Needham stormwater regulations, and it looks, I don't actually remember off the top of my head either, but I think if it's 25%, less than 25% of the existing, you just have to recharge the addition and not more of that. But if it's more, then you have to do more.
Okay.
I believe that's correct, 25%.
That they're less than 25%?
Well, that's a stormwater requirement is 25%. So if it's under 25% of the existing structure, if the addition's smaller than 25%, then you only have to do the runoff for the addition.
Okay. So you'll want to look into that.
Not including the deck though, right?
Correct.
Just the house.
Yeah, just
the
the house,
addition.
just the addition. Okay, right. Okay. Yeah, I'll check on that.
It might be impervious area, like if you were to do a new driveway, but if it's, the deck is not impervious, then it won't count.
I mean, it will have slats, you know.
Right, so it's not impervious because the water can go through it.
Yeah. Right. So prior to any ground disturbance, an erosion control barrier will be installed. Construction access will be on this side of the house, just because it's kind of tight there. There's shrubs and whatnot. So it would be on this side. They'd probably have to take the fence down right there, but yeah, they would come in over here. And I think that's it. Anyone have any questions?
So you're showing a 30-foot buffer. We have a 25-foot, we have a 25-foot no disturb. So we want to make sure your erosion controls and your access are outside that 25, that you're not disturbing anything within the 25.
No, nothing's being disturbed within 25 feet. Yeah. I mean, if we could pull the erosion control barrier, closer, but
yeah, it looks like you should be able to be outside of the 25 foot. So
yeah,
no disturbances. Commission members, we're also here. Stephen, do you have any questions?
No comments.
Is there something like there's a waiver request?
There is for work in the 50-foot.
Right, so it's only a 25-foot.
So the waiver should say a 25-foot if you're working within the 25-foot.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, then I guess I didn't need to fill it out, but
Right, and the waiver said it's an intermittent stream, so.
I
was-
saw that. I was like, oops. so-
Yeah, but you don't need it anyway, so it doesn't
Okay.
really matter.
Yeah,
Peter,
No questions.
Paulina,
Questions?
Sue,
No trees down.
no trees to be removed.
where does this one fall as far as work within the riverfront area and all those requirements? Is this less than 10%, so therefore they can go up to 10%? It's a much bigger lot. It's 31,937.
Right, and the riverfront area comes over to, off property. It's so pretty much like everything.
Yeah, yeah, but the regulation we were talking about before, I may have misunderstood it a little bit, but basically, if you have an existing structure that's less than 10% of the riverfront area of the lot.
Of the riverfront on the lot. So I believe it would be the whole lot in this case. 'Cause I think the whole lot, both sides of the stream are within riverfront.
Okay, and the
What-
other one, the whole lot wasn't in the street, in the riverfront? Wasn't the whole lot in the riverfront?
The whole lot was correct.
Okay, good. I was doing my math that way. I'm like, what? Did I screw it up? Okay,
It-
so the whole lot is within the riverfront. And is the existing building less than 10% of the lot, the 31,937? Or do we not know that answer?
I believe it is, but I don't have the exact number of the size of the house. Brett, you would know that, would you?
Not
I
up to
mean-
the top of my head, but
So we want to do the calculation to make sure that it's correct. And it's so the existing impervious area within the riverfront area on the lot, which
Yeah.
is probably 31,937.
So you don't
that-
count the deck because the deck is pervious.
But you count the driveway and the stairs and the walkway, if it's assuming that the walkway is concrete or pervious, is impervious.
Right, and then the new.
The new
yeah,
addition, the new impervious can be up to 10%. But
be up
can't
to
be
10.
more than, but cannot be more than 10%.
Right,
So you have a big lot, so you have a lot to work with.
right,
If it exceeds 10%, it just requires that mitigation, that 2-to-1 mitigation. So
Which would be pulling back some of the lawn away from the river.
okay. I mean, I think we're good, but yes, I mean. I'll calculate it.
Do the calculation. All right, great.
I did do some calculations, but I realized I think I did it wrong, so. After this conversation, I'm like, okay, I came up with 2.7% of the riverfront area is. The part that's, so it's less than 10, but I need to back up my number, so. I
Yeah.
have to go revisit, because,
Because if you have a 2,000 square foot house, which is, looks like a pretty good sized house, divided by 31,937, that's 6% already. So, but it's still 6%. But that doesn't include the driveway. You have some math to do.
yeah.
You might be less. All right, so you understand that part. So we can't close it anyway because you don't have a file number. You're gonna confirm the stormwater, you're gonna change the 25-foot buffer zone, make sure you're not working within the 25-foot no disturb zone, and do the calculation for riverfront area. Anything else? Anybody?
Questions to the public?
Questions in the public? Anybody in the public have anything to add?
there are no raised hands.
Anybody from the commission have anything? Stephen, anything else?
I move that we continue 34 Meadowbrook Road until May 25th.
I second.
I assume that you want May 25th?
Yes.
Okay. All right, all in favor, Peter,
Hi.
Paulina,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
aye, great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you
Thanks.
in 2 weeks.
Okay.
All righty. we have 46, 50, 62, 94 Heather Lane, MWRA siphon structure project. And I found that you have a DP file number 2340903. This is a notice of intent. Do you agree you have a file number? Yeah, you want to agree, just say yes.
Agreed.
Okay, so who is here on behalf of MWRA? Michael Cunningham and Milan?
Horbachevsky, yes. Good evening. Milan Horbachevsky, Program Manager, Massachusetts Water Resources Authority. Thank you so much for having us this evening.
Thank you
As
for
you
your
may
patience.
recall, we met with you a year ago, January, and received an exemption that February for the 5 structures within the town of Needham. Just a quick recap. This is the sewer siphon rehabilitation contract, in which we're rehabbing 40 structures at 30 locations in 17 different communities. 5 of those structures are in Needham. And like I said previously, we obtained the exemption from you. So what we're here for today is a notice of intent to utilize our existing easement to access 2 of the structures. We met with you this past December with Chairperson or Chair Janet, as well as Deb and Clay, and we took a productive site walk, I believe, along the easement, and we were able to show that we had, we had exhausted our options as far as obtaining private easements through private properties off of Heather Lane through the new development. So what we were looking to do is clear a 10-foot portion of our 40-foot wide easement that has existed since the sewers were put in place. And that would require clearing, tree removal, grading, and subgrade improvement for that access road, which would be gravel and would be located within the 200-foot riverfront protection area leading up to our 2 structures that need rehabilitation. Obviously a critical project for the infrastructure, and the easement was not maintained properly over the time where, quite frankly, it should have been. And there should not have been as much vegetation that has grown over time. We're looking to take down a dozen trees of 6-inch and larger, 2 of them being greater than 14-inch, largest being 18-inch. And like I said, I think we took a look at what we could do on Heather Lane and decided that our best course of action was to use our existing easement to access for construction and for perpetual maintenance. So tonight with me, I've got Mike Cunningham and several others from the authority and other sub-consultants, but I'd like to hand it over to Mike so he can give a brief presentation on what we're looking to do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Milan. I'll go ahead and share screen. That's all right.
Yep.
Yeah. The good people at Google are always updating information. It looks like they have finally come up with some aerial mapping that shows what this site looks like today. It looked a lot different when we started planning this project back in 2020. And we had talked, predecessor to Milan that was managing the project for the MWRA had talked to, the developer, Bill Pierzak, and we had looked at the potential for using the future Heather Lane and really bypassing a lot of the undeveloped area and getting a new easement that would come down from roughly the end of Heather Lane through what was at that time undeveloped land, and intercept MWRA's easement that goes across the cleared area behind some of the, the big homes at the end of Heather Lane, and tie back in and head east to the siphon structure. So the siphon structure is out at the end of this little line I've drawn on the aerial I'm showing you out on the banks of the Charles River, quite a far way away from Chestnut. So while that plan was great at the time, while we were planning our project, which is 30 sites in 17 communities, the subdivision proceeded, and we tried, to continue to find a, line along a side property line, one of these many properties, and with a potentially an agreeable property owner. But as we talked with you all that attended our site visit back in December, it just didn't pan out. And so Milan said, we went back to the drawing board and really utilizing the existing easement MWRA has, which is roughly the line that I've drawn, and getting access from Chestnut Street really is the way we need to go here. That easement, varies between 40 feet or wider in some spots. It's got two major interceptor sewers that flow, across Chestnut Street, across Charles River that, en route to eventually Deer Island. In our application, and when we were before you back in 2022, we talked about, the benefits and the purpose of this project. It's really just strengthening these siphon structures to prevent flood inundation and prevent structural failure. The access is secondary, but for a site like this, it's quite distant from the nearest right-of-way. Heather Lane's a private road, Chestnut Street's the right-of-way that we need to get to the structures from. When these pipes were put in, this area was, completely dug out to depths of 10, 15 feet. Very large pipes were put in one in the mid 1950s and the most recent one in 2009, I think. No, 1990. That would have been funny. And so, yeah, the areas, were backfilled and leveled and stuff, but, as Mon said, they've grown in. And so when we made our most recent site visit in December, we walked the route and talked about the impacts and how we'll, attempt to avoid tree removals and things like that to the maximum extent. But we're trying to provide access to vehicles both for construction and for periodic future maintenance. So shifting to our drawings and having highlighted the MDRA easement lines in red, you can see from Chestnut Street, there's a chain link fence that we would, create an opening and a lockable gate. And basically, we want to create a gravel surface. Most of our sites we're doing 13 feet wide. For this, we decided to neck that down to 10 feet. We're proposing a 10-foot wide gravel access road within the easement, offset away from the wetlands, away from the river, while still staying comfortably within the easement and avoiding trees to the extent we can. Fortunately, we're in floodplain for most of this, but fortunately, the grading, we worked hard on this. The grading enables a net increase in flood storage because there really wasn't much filling needed. And so we tried to be a little conservative and do a bit of cutting with bumps and stuff along the route just to get, to get a little extra flood storage and not have to haul out too much surplus soil.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So in reading the application, the gravel roadway or driveway, whatever you want to call it, isn't going to continue behind the houses?
Yeah, I'll jump ahead to that, Deb. So part of our original proposal was to never build a road behind the houses. At the time when we first came out there, that was, beautiful lawn, flat, cleared. And we looked at that and said, well, we're not building a road there because it's traversable by all the different kinds of vehicles that we could envision and we might need to do maintenance with. Where we need to do the road is sort of, where the road grades, horizontally along the road might be a little too steep per vehicle. We have to either fill or cut to level those out a bit, like your driveway. Also where, there might just be a side slope or something that's too uneven and we're worried about stability of vehicles. So that wasn't the case behind there, and that's still not the case. Like, we haven't modified the plan at all from that lawn heading east to the siphon structure. The plan that we presented to you back in January 2022 when we were seeking an exemption, maintenance exemption. So I drew a green line on this plan roughly to show where the new plan from the west ties into the old plan from the east, and nothing's changed heading east of that point. It's really the need to use the easement going all the way back to Chestnut Street and make it traversable by vehicles for both construction and future maintenance. And I'll remind you, the construction, when I say construction at the structures, there's no digging, none of that. It's lining the inside, putting flood-proof openings on the top, prevent flood inundation and stuff like that. But we got to get there. We got to get there then, and the MDRA needs to get there beyond then.
All right, just to clarify, I did talk to the owners of 64 today. And they were concerned. They didn't really understand the easement that they have and the rights that you guys have over it that goes through their property. And they wanted to make sure that you weren't going to be putting a gravel driveway through what they claim, is their property.
Well,
So I
could
said based on reading what you guys wrote, that you weren't planning on putting the gravel roadway behind the houses. So
which property was 64? Excuse me, Deb. That's the
64 is next to 90, was it 94?
That's Kayer then, Milan.
Yes.
That would be Kayer.
64 is Kayer. Okay. Well,
Yes.
the concern there, quite frankly, is that we want to make sure that Kayer does not extend any structures onto our existing easement. So that's a concern of ours, that we want to make sure that we monitor that closely.
That'd be like
Mhm.
Kayer should be aware of where the easement is, because I've had several conversations with him. So I
Okay.
want to make sure that if nothing else, I actually happened to stop by the site today on my way home, and I did notice that his house is up. And what from what I understand, there'll be a lot of terracing going down his property with different levels of different structures, perhaps even swimming pools and so forth, tennis courts. But we want to make sure that we, get constantly aware that you cannot impose upon our existing easement.
Right, but you're not planning on adding gravel to,
No.
No,
That
we plan to
area.
keep that green space along that property, as
Okay.
well as the property next door, which is owned by right now by Colby.
yeah, I know.
Kemple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so those two properties, we will keep the existing grass as is. But
Okay.
we need to make sure that those homeowners understand that there is an easement that they cannot build upon or encroach upon. that
Okay,
runs
I just
through.
wanted to make sure I was giving him the most correct information. So.
Yeah,
Yes.
Deb,
Thank
if you
you.
were to walk west, down the easement, leaving Kemple, heading across Kayer's property, the trees are already sort of cut around the easement like this blue line. So what we did was we measured out such that we're terminating the gravel road within that screened area, provided those trees don't come down by others. It's within that screened area. So if you're a property owner up north and you're looking down from Heather Lane, you wouldn't see the gravel road. It's screened off by that opening by the trees. And so it will transition to just a corridor, which is essentially a demarcation for the contractor to say, hey, stay in this 15-foot wide corridor when you travel.
Mhm.
And MDRA, we'll do the same. They'll stay within their easement for future maintenance, all the way until you get within another screened area, again, provided no one decides to cut more. Once you get down the steep slope where the old swimming pool used to be, which is probably like up here. So you can't see the gravel from those properties.
Okay, thank
And
you.
of course, it's gravel, like, how it's going to look 2-3 years from now. I mean, it won't look like a fresh gravel road anymore. I mean, there'll be growth coming up around it and in it. I mean, our goal is really just to create a surface that can withstand vehicle loading, even though there will be growth, and MDRA is not going to mow it down annually. But it's just like if someone goes to drive a vehicle over a grassed area that has a good gravel base in it, it's not going to depress. We
And
got
you've
some
had this
sites-
discussion with Mr. Care, I would imagine.
Yes,
Well,
I've
not
spoken with Care a couple of times regarding the project, because actually he was one of the people that we were looking to obtain an easement through their private property.
Right.
So he's well aware of the project and certainly has my contact information if he
Okay.
has any questions. But he should be aware that there is an easement running through his property. Certainly we've told him so, and he'd be naive not to know that.
And we also met Kobe out on site, Kobe Kemple, and told him about that while walking the easement. So he's just as aware as
Yes,
Nick.
in Pierce still owns one property there as well
Mhm.
on the other side of Care.
Right.
So
Like over
those
here.
three we've kept in contact with several times and walked the site with them. Care, my conversations have been by phone, but I believe he understands the scope of our project as well as the easement in his backyard.
And how are you demarcating this line through their yards with
Yeah.
some of the grass? You said you were demarcating it so that the people
Not
driving the truck.
permanently, not like with bounds.
Okay.
It will be, the contractor's obligated to do layout prior to mobilizing. So they'll bring in a registered surveyor and they'll do layout of the existing easements, the limits of where the access road will be constructed. So they'll have their limits by which they know to operate within. But we don't want to set permanent structures in these people's yards. Like, you know, it will be easy for the MWA because the manholes represent the center lines of the two adjoining 20-foot wide easements. And so easy for MWA to sort of get their bearings when they're out there accessing in the future.
So
But your
these
que- your
circles
question-
on your plan are the manholes?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's one here. There's
Oh,
one
that's I was
here.
looking at something else. Okay.
Yep. And then over here, there's another parallel set of manholes here and here. So
And
we've
your-
field verified all of those.
Your
People
question,
conveniently planted bushes over some of them, but yeah.
your question, Jenna, is a good one in the sense that even though we have a 40-foot wide easement there, we will try to keep the contractor to a limited area, perhaps, you know, similar to that 10-foot swath, so that they're not necessarily running the
Yes.
course of the 40-foot wide easement. So that I understand what you're saying, and maybe even something, you know, paint can be put down just to keep them in a corridor within that 40-foot easement, so they're not, you know, they're not.
Yeah, we're
crimping
giving them
over.
15 right down the center of the two 40-foot easements. Sorry, the two 20-foot easements. So we're giving them a 15-foot corridor right down the middle.
So that way we eliminate, you know, damage the entire width of the
Yeah.
their lawn within that 40 feet.
And then, I feel like this maybe is not a conservation question, but I'll ask it anyway. Then in 3 years, when this is done and somebody's just coming down to do maintenance or whatever they're doing, how are they gonna know? Are they just gonna be on the gravel road, which would be kind of obvious because it's not gonna be that overgrown? They'll know where the manholes are and they'll see the other gravel road and they'll just, you know, basically make a beeline for it. And
Yes.
they're not, you know, haphazardly driving over.
Yeah, so it may not necessarily be that 15-foot swath that we're, you know, intending for construction, but certainly they'll be within our 40-foot easement. And we have to remember that this access for maintenance may take place every other year. And most likely it'll not be with a Vector truck, which may, you know, come much less frequently, because as part of our project here, we intend to leave these structures in a clean, if not pristine condition, so that a Vector truck won't be making its way down there anytime soon. And that would be somewhat infrequently over the years. So it's not
Yeah,
as
you
if
know,
it's
I
gonna
had
be-
never pictured a Vector truck going down there. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, and once again, that's, you know, that's gonna happen, you know, every some odd years. It may happen every 5, maybe happen every 10, as long as these are maintained properly. We're looking more, you know, pickup truck coming back and forth, perhaps on an annual basis to inspect these. So, you know, there isn't going to be much damage that's incurred over the years on those lawns.
Milan, do you want to mention too, sort of the outreach that MWA typically does to accommodate people's schedules? I know with some of these other sites, been pretty proactive in reaching out in advance of any site visits.
Yes, you know, what we're doing here is that, you know, certainly we're allowing the contractor to choose means and methods. So it's an 18-month contract. And so we're not dictating when, where, and how necessarily. I mean, we're working with some stipulations and trying to build in some milestones, but the contract will take place it'll be let this fall. So the majority of the work will be done beginning in the winter, spring of next year, run through the calendar year, and finish up in the spring of 25. Even though each of these structures, as we discussed, you know, prior, will only take, you know, 3-4 weeks of work. This particular site will take a little bit of work, obviously, to get the gravel access way done. But we're very proactive in being able to discuss with property owners prior, as well as letting the commission know when we get a schedule from the contractor when they intend to be out here. You know, we'll give you hopefully a month's notice, as well as any property owners. And like I said, these owners all have my personal cell phone number, so they can get a hold of me with any comments, questions, issues, problems.
Okay, so the work that's going to impact the wetlands, which is really what we're concerned about. There'll be removal of some trees.
Yes, a dozen trees of 6-inch and greater, and as I mentioned, I believe only 2 of them are 14-inch and greater. We have 114, I think 118. So those, but otherwise they're smaller diameter trees that will be.
You know, what did you list? What the types of trees someplace on this plan?
Just size. Just
Yeah, when we were out in the field, I think we noted a couple that you had felt were, not necessarily, some of them were not in great shape, as you recall. We may have only had one or two, I guess, trees that, unfortunately were being lost, but the rest of them were in poor shape. And certainly we tried to avoid as many as possible. One thing that we are doing here, just to be clear, we're not clearing our 40-foot wide easement. Now, we're only going to clear what we feel is necessary for this road, which is approximately 10 feet, maybe 11, 12 in spots, to avoid roots and so forth that, are crossing the roadway. But we've made a conscious effort not to clear entirely the 40-foot width. Even though, like you said, this growth should not have been there to begin with. We do understand that we don't want to make a 40-foot clear path through here. So we're trying to minimize the impact.
And now I understand that this work is not under Needham's bylaw, but it's under the Wetlands Protection Act, the state regulations. But you don't, is that true, Deb? This is not, because it's a utility, doesn't fall under the Needham bylaw? Is that true?
It's the MDRE's Enabling Act.
Yes. So we're exempt through the Enabling Act.
Okay. But is there a way, so you're removing these 12 trees, is there a way to plant any trees to make up for what you're removing?
Didn't we talk about that on site?
Yes, we did. We did talk about that, and we're willing to accommodate your bylaws as far as replacement of trees. As I say, certainly not within our existing easement or on anywhere that we're clearing these trees. But we are willing to work with you in being able to provide some replacement.
Chair, if you remember, some of our concerns were that we've encountered over the years that trees have gotten too big and too close. They've sat too close over the pipes, and the roots can infiltrate, can get into pipe joints. So that's an MDRE concern, that if we do plant, we just don't want to encourage that predicament from happening in the future. So getting it away from the sewer pipes is preferred.
Yeah. So our policy is not to plant new trees within our existing easements.
And that's all you have to work with, is an existing easement.
Well, we can discuss that. Certainly, we want to be good neighbors and do what we can.
I mean, is there any chance that any of the property owners that you're cutting through their properties would allow you to plant some trees on their property?
Well, certainly as a buffer outside of our easement, if that's something that's beneficial to them, that's something we can discuss.
Yeah, I mean, we would certainly appreciate any trees being planted back within our the wetland jurisdiction.
Mhm.
And so, we're not envisioning trees up on Heather Lane.
Right.
Maybe that is within our jurisdiction, but I don't really think so. But if and I understand that you don't want them in your easement with your pipes, but if any of those property owners are willing to allow you to plant some of the trees on their properties outside of your, that it might be a win-win.
Or along an edge or something, yeah.
Yeah, along, yeah. I mean, maybe it's something you could discuss and let us know where that lands, because
and there's also the shrub option too.
Yes, you had mentioned that when we were out in the field, Deb. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but their roots wouldn't,
Question, is there any opportunity for collaboration? So the property where a lot of the tree removal is happening is where that house was demolished, and it's co-owned or owned by the architects. We never reached out to them because they just weren't part of any plan to kind of bisect the site. It was always further east out by, the Care Kemple properties. But I don't know if in the future, if they came before you, there could be a collaborative sort of requirement that they allow plantings just outside the easement on their property. I just don't know if you've heard any rumblings of if anything's happening on that property. There was going to be a four home subdivision or something. I don't know. But just a thought,
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess we would be looking to you to let us know who you can make a deal with to put some trees back in within our jurisdiction. I
Okay,
don't,
we can,
I
we
don't
can.
care,
we
I don't
can
care who
talk
the deal
about-
is with, but
Yeah,
we
no, we-
can't really make that deal. It has to be your deal, but we would like it.
Yeah, we can get together offline on that and figure out what might make sense, you know, combination of shrub and tree.
Can that be
potentially.
conditioned in sort of like in a manner that's sort of, like performance based, not to hold up an order, but with the, you know, good faith intent, like, you could say that MWA shall work with owners to seek for tree plantings or something like that?
Well, I would actually ask that it's not included in the order, but that's my opinion on that. But like I say, we can discuss as to how to best handle it.
And I was just thinking if if that thing takes time, because gosh knows how long we've been trying to work out just this routing and without any success, but I just didn't want it to be hinged upon.
Yeah, well, and I think I would appreciate a good faith effort in reaching out to some of these abutters that you're already talking to, and just say the commission has asked for this. Are there places that we can plant some trees on your property that's within their
I think that
jurisdiction?
makes a lot of sense.
And we would like to make sure that the property owner of, is it 62, 64?
62, yeah.
Who has had opportunity to review the plans and input any concerns or comments that they may have. I think Deb just spoke with them today, so we just want to make sure that they
Yeah,
understand.
I forwarded them the application and the plans.
Yes.
They appeared to me as though they really didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
So,
Well, once again, I'll make sure that I once again educate them onto where our existing easement is. I want to make sure that they don't encroach upon that easement. That's
Mhm.
first and foremost of our priority, quite frankly.
Yeah, and again, our priority is the wetlands but at the same time, having an easy, I think our biggest struggle is the removal of trees within the
Right.
riverfront area. So we appreciate that you're a utility and that you have to access your pipes. And we appreciate that you're trying to be conscientious and keeping it narrow and all of the rest. We just want to make sure before we close this hearing that anybody that may be in the proximity, now that Deb has also reached out to them, I feel like they can't say that they didn't hear anything.
Yes,
So-
well, we appreciate you discussing with that with Kay or Deb, but like I say, I have had conversations with them on the telephone. He has not met me out on site, so I can offer that as well as meet with him to give a better idea of what it is that we're doing.
Okay, and I just wanted to, on your WPA form, you have that there's 19,137 square feet of riverfront area on site, and that you were altering all of it.
Oh, okay, we will.
You might
correct
want
that.
to revise that.
Well, is
Yeah.
there? Okay, because they're just staying within this.
I'm thinking,
Maybe-
what is our site? We must have treated all the riverfront within the MWA's easements as our quote unquote
Yeah,
site.
so is that the 19,137, your entire 40-foot easement all the way across?
I can't say offhand. We will definitely rerun those numbers using CAD, to calculate those up and make sure.
Yeah,
that we
just
did-
as far as, DEP
And-
looking
and
at
it's-
it and seeing that you're disturbing all
Disturbing,
of
yeah,
the riverfront
right.
area.
Leaving no stone unturned, right? Yeah, we'll correct that. Yeah, the impression isn't very good. Okay.
So if you could check about trees. And we just want to confirm that all the butters have had a chance to weigh in. Any commission members have any comments? Stephen,
No comment.
Peter?
Yeah, I like the shrub idea. It's keeping in the character of a lot of right of ways to provide that sort of habitat.
So you can come back to the shrubs when the butters choose not to allow you to plant 24 trees in there.
Well, even, if they're not gonna be maintaining the whole 40-foot you know, maybe there's an opportunity to put some shrubs within the easement itself.
Yeah, I think certainly along the border would be preferable, because
Mhm.
even though, as we say, root intrusion from a shrub is certainly less so than the tree.
Right.
Some of our sewers are actually not that deep below grade. So, you know, the fact that, like I said, that we've allowed these trees to grow upon our easement is unfortunate over this time. But yeah, certainly some shrubs along, you know, bordering the easement, I think, and you know, that might be the way to go. And whether that's on their, you know, their home side of the easement or whether on the far side of the easement, so that, you know, that'll be interesting to see. They may want it on the far side in order to keep their lawns. You know, so we'll work. We can discuss that with the property owners.
Good. Helena.
No comment.
Sue.
No comment.
Okay, anybody in the audience have anything to add?
There are no hands in the audience.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience?
There's one person, but they might actually be associated with this project.
Okay, thanks. All right, anybody on your team have anything else to add? They've all been very quiet. Sorry for keeping you this late. Thank you for holding in with us. Anything else? So you're gonna provide us with a new DEP form, trees, butter. Is that are the only things that we listed?
Yeah.
And you have erosion control someplace, I believe. There's a 12
Yes.
inch compost filter stock. all the way
There's a lot of it. Yeah.
Right.
So there's some in BBW, but that's just a temporary impact.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the very end of the project out near the structure where the corridor gets quite narrow, but yeah, we had to place it on the edge of BBW.
Near the river,
Yes,
the river end.
yeah.
Okay, well, if everybody's all set, then we can take a motion to continue this to, I assume you want May 25th? Along with everybody else? Is that?
Continued to May 25th.
Continuing for what purpose again, please?
Well, you're continuing because you're gonna provide us with the new form, you're gonna tell us about the trees, and you're gonna we're gonna make sure that the butters are all have added whatever comments they wanna have.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll have a definitive plan for tree planting, though by that time it may still.
Yeah, well, we want to make sure that you've just made a.
Yeah, the outreach. What I'll do is I'll
Yeah.
ensure that we've made outreach to these property owners prior to that.
Yeah.
And if you want us to continue for a month, we'll continue whatever, we can go.
No, we
longer.
prefer not to. So if I'll make some outreach, but once again, and not necessarily a planting plan, I'm not going to present one. What I'll
Yeah,
do
I
is
mean,
make
if
outreach.
people will say, that they are agreeable for trees being planted, that, whatever they're agreeable to, and if they're agreeable to nothing, then let us know that as well.
Okay.
Anything else, anybody?
Nope.
All right, I'll take a
45th,
motion to
52.
continue till May 25th.
Another lane till May 25th.
A second.
All in favor, Peter,
Hi.
Paulina,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Stephen.
Aye.
Yeah, aye, great, thank you very much, thank you
Thank you very
for
much. Appreciate your time.
being so patient.
Good night.
All right, thanks. See you in a
Thank
couple
you.
weeks. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, maybe we could take them first next time. I don't know. Okay. Issue order of conditions for 470 Dedham Avenue, DP file number 234902. Request to hold off issuance until the next meeting to complete these. Oh, we don't have an exhibit. Get that.
Yeah.
Edgewater Road, issue order of conditions. Are we ready for that one?
Yeah, I circulated a draft shortly before the meeting, but I'm happy to pull up the highlighted conditions on the share screen.
Okay.
And sorry, Clay, the exhibit you distributed had the special conditions, but it didn't have the other information, like the plans of record applicant. and parcel information, et cetera?
Correct. I just didn't have time to populate that because I've been out of the office.
Is it okay for us to
Is it
vote on
okay?
that?
If we wait on this one too, and we'll get them all next time, or is this one under some time frame?
I think this one's technically under some time frame. The plan of record was the same as submitted, because there was no revisions requested at the original meeting. The finding of fact is generally just the like a summary of the proposed plan, so it will include information on the mitigation of the wet meadow area where there's existing lawn, the upland plantings at the top of the bank. It will reference the planting schedule and tree removal plan, which is also embedded into the special conditions. And then most of the house structure is outside of jurisdiction. It's just kind of the back of the foundation, but the grading in BLSF, the cutting they're proposing, is also embedded in the special conditions. So it's, I guess, entirely up to you. My personal opinion is that I felt comfortable putting this forward without those currently embedded in it, simply because the finding of facts generally just puts layman's terms to the special conditions that are written. Generally, when I write them, it's always see special condition this or that.
Peter, are you okay?
Yeah.
Clay, you want to just pull that up then, if you're okay with that? Did everybody receive that email? I haven't gone back to my email, so. Okay, so you're gonna populate that piece, and are there anything particular?
Yeah, so we have the stock conditions, which are all the kind of the preparation, having things recorded at the Registry of Deeds. It holds the liability for anybody performing the work, so they should be given a copy of the order conditions as well. The DEP file sign, soil test pits. I believe with this one, the soil test pit had not been conducted, but they had proposed where they wanted to do the soil test pit.
Yeah, I kind of remember that. It was way high.
This condition is in there that they have to complete the soil test pit and confirm that the location is suitable before commencing on the construction of the house. Pre-construction site visit and erosion controls will need to be in place. Pretty much where we have the special conditions. It wasn't shown on the plan, but I assumed that the commission wanted at least 4 permanent markers, since they're restoring a lawn area to a meadow.
Yes.
It will go along the edge of the bordering vegetated wetland, since it's being restored, since there's currently not a buffer. But it is currently long as the existing condition. They have the 10 trees that are within the area subject to jurisdiction, so there was more tree removals than that. But the trees outside of jurisdiction didn't fall under this order. The planting plan included 20 native saplings, as well as the seeding for the wet meadow within the actual bordering vegetated wetland. And then there was also a note on the wildlife snags that will remain in place for any of the trees that are feasible. I know that next to the stormwater basin, there was discussion about leaving 1 or 2 of those trees as wildlife snags if they didn't pose a hazard to the new construction. So I can either leave it as feasible, or I can put in at the pre-construction site visit that they should review with staff to confirm which trees may be suitable for wildlife snags.
Wildlife snags are feasible. I think you should confirm with staff. Thanks.
This is a stock condition that we have for restoration plantings, but I included language for the mitigation area within the bordering vegetated wetland, since this isn't just mitigation of the 25-foot buffer zone, this is mitigation within the wetland area as well, so that should be monitored. Same with this condition is generally a stock condition that's been modified to include the bordering vegetated wetland as well as the 25-foot buffer zone. And then stating that mowing is prohibited except once per year mowing within the restoration meadow to prevent woody vegetation, because I believe their proposal requested to do an October-based mowing.
Sounds good.
And then finally, on the requesting the certificate of compliance, I added that they should also have a that their final certificate that accompanies their as-built and WPA plan includes the final grading and flood storage capacity conditions. So those final conditions within the altered bordering land subject to flooding, just to make sure that we have an engineer signing off that everything was a cut and there was no filling of the step.
Great. Is that everything?
That's everything.
Anybody have any comments on that? Stephen,
Comments?
Paulina,
No comments.
Sue,
No comment. Thanks, Clay.
Peter?
Yeah, is there a waiver request for work within the 25?
I actually don't believe that there was a waiver requested at the meeting or motion. That's a good question.
Yeah, we should have made a motion because they're in the wetland.
Yeah, in this case, they're in the wetland. I suppose you could still make that motion tonight with the issuance of the order of condition. I believe that motion has been made after the closing of a hearing in the past.
Yeah. But
So
they
yeah.
but they
do we
did
have a-
request a waiver of the fee.
Dr. Rockwood's pretty good about that stuff. I'd be
I was just gonna say that.
surprised that.
I mean, I would assume in his packet, there was
Cover
probably,
the waiver fee. He submitted a check for the waiver fee. A request for a waiver of certain standards of the bylaw and a request for a reduction of the waiver fee are included in this cover letter. So,
I mean, I'd be inclined to give it to him just because it's restoration.
yeah, I'll work within the 25 and within the resource areas, with the exception of the riverfront area, are beneficial. They're all plantings and restoration and mitigation. And the work within the riverfront is subject to the riverfront standards, so. I think it would be appropriate to have a motion for waiver of the 25-foot bylaw and fee.
So moved.
I second.
that sounds good. Thank
Everybody's
you.
tired.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, well, I'm looking for the waiver request in the letter. It does seem to be in here. There's a lot of discussion. I know that seeking a waiver of the waiver fee. So I'm sure I just didn't get to the waiver part. Okay, everybody in favor of granting a waiver of the 25-foot no disturbs and working within the 25-foot no disturb. Peter?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Paulina?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Yeah, aye. And is there, they've also asked for a waiver of the fee. So are we granting the waiver of the fee? $1,000 fee for adding plants within the 25-foot no disturb zone. I have a motion.
I move we waive the fee.
I second.
All in favor, Stephen,
Aye.
Paulina, Sue,
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Yeah, aye, great. Okay. Do we have to do anything else?
Yeah,
Oh, we have to vote for
move-
the
I
actual.
move
Well,
we
wait.
issue.
but
Issuance.
We have to
Yes, I
issue
move
it.
we issue the order of conditions.
Technicalities.
Deb, did you want
with
to have
the-
to add something else, or are we up to?
You missed the park and rec discussion about the
Well, we
canoe shed.
haven't finished this one yet.
Well, I know.
Oh, okay. I thought you had something to add on this one. Okay, so Peter said, let's make this happen. Who
I second.
seconded it? Oh my gosh. Okay, all in favor, Stephen, Paulina,
Hi.
Sue,
Aye.
Remember,
Peter.
we have poor
Aye.
Kristen, the new minute taker, who's probably just like, oh my God, what are these people doing? Is anyone seconding? What's happening?
yeah, it got seconded. Peter said it, Sue said, we all said
I'm
aye.
being sarcastic.
Okay. Are we done with Edgewater Drive now? And we can move on to Park and Recreation discussion?
Clay, you know the pictures I sent you? I sent you pictures.
Oh, there's actually.
So anyways, Stacy, Director of Park and Rec, asked me to meet her earlier in the week. They have a high school senior group that wants to put together a shed for them to store the park and rec and our conservation canoe and kayaks in.
It's a big shed.
Huh?
The big shed. They're gonna.
Well, so apparently they only have our canoe and 2 kayaks left. They use the kayaks for staff to scare the geese away. So besides that, there's just our conservation canoe, whatever classes they have or camps, they have the group rent canoes from one of the rental places on. So anyways, but so this is the area up against the fence on the right-hand side of that picnic table, that area that they're looking at. They are going to be putting it on blocks. They are going to be purchasing it at like Home Depot, and the kids are just going to be putting it together. And it will be on blocks. So it is within the 25 foot, but then it wouldn't be a permanent structure being on blocks, which we've approved before.
And it's grass right now.
It's grass. Yeah, they don't have.
Park and Rec wants a shed right there.
That's the only place I guess they think that there's room to put it. It doesn't have to be a very big shed, but apparently there's a time constraint because the kids have to have this done before they graduate. So I told
In a
her
month.
yeah, I told her I'd present it to you guys, and you know, it might be something that I could approve administratively if you were okay with it.
Fine.
Peter,
Yes, this is okay.
Stephen,
Yes.
Paulina.
Yes.
So it's okay. Yeah.
Oh, I'll let them
No,
know.
it's okay, I guess. Yeah. You know, I just think it's not a very nice place for a shed, but whatever.
Yeah,
That's what I want.
I know.
Gonna make a not a nice view for the splash pad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it
Yeah,
is
I know.
grass right now, and if it's on blocks, I guess it's fine. And
Will it be portable?
Well, it'll be on blocks, so it will.
theory could just be taken
permanent.
away, but
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay, I'll let them know.
okay, so we're almost done, people. So
Yeah.
sorry, so sorry, this is going on forever. Once all those projects go away, you know, we will have nothing to talk about. Okay, so I promised Sue we would discuss and vote on return to in-person meetings or staying remote. So I think this is just as easy to do via an email. People can vote and send their vote to Debbie. The remote, just to one little minor thing, the remote is we will continue to be at 7 o'clock. If we go in person, we would go at 7:30 because we all would have to get there. And once we go in person, you have to look at the Board of Selectmen sent information that basically says, once we're in person because we can't keep going back and forth. So
It'll be hybrid. So in
It'll be
person
hybrid, so the
is hybrid.
audience can be hybrid, or they could be there. Like they can choose, right? They have their opportunity.
Right.
But we pretty much have to be in person. We can have, every now and then, we could be remote for one reason or another, but we pretty much have to be there, right? All of us, compared to just chair and.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, the chair, the majority has to be there, in person, and if
And whoever's
you,
not needs to have a good excuse,
yes,
like they're traveling to Italy or something.
that's right. Something
Then
like
they're not
that
gonna
for
be
the
here.
weekend, for a
Or
long
Japan,
weekend.
or Japan.
Or
Oh,
Japan,
Japan.
that's the next thing, you're
Yep.
Japan. Okay.
Alrighty then.
And, okay, so keep that in mind. Well, I'm gonna send Debbie our thoughts on that so that we can make sure that everybody gets a vote. And, so the select board has asked to talk to me just about, how the status of the commission, and say that Paulina and Sue are doing an amazing job and we want them to continue. Anybody want to join me? Peter?
Well, I'll be joining you.
And Debbie will join me. Peter, you want to join us? Is that a yes?
No. No,
Wow.
so can I know it's late and we don't have a lot of energy to discuss things. I do have, Janet is stepping down. I wanted to let the commission know that I'm happy to fill a gap if we don't get a new chair quickly, but I have no intention of wanting to be chair for a long time. And so because I'm in a similar situation, I'm ready to actually step off of the committee altogether, but
Oh,
I'm
good
waiting till
grief.
so I'm waiting for things to get populated again. So my proposal would be actually to have someone else fill the vice chair slot to allow them to get some experience before they might, be interested in being chair long term.
So I also had brought up to Janet, most of the other boards have the chair switch out like every year. It's not a long-term commitment. So you could set, 6 months or a year. It's up to you.
Yeah, yes, I mean, there's all sorts of issues. One of the things, frankly, that I'm struggling with right now is that this is way past the time I usually go to bed. So
Yeah.
these meetings, particularly the last one, and if we start meeting in person and they drag on to 11, it's not good for me. So there's all sorts of reasons why, I'd rather spend as little time in the chair position as possible.
Yeah. Well, so that's great. I appreciate that, Peter. And so others can think about if they, are finding this interesting. And Dave might be interested also, or Allison, to take on that vice chair position. And with the idea of moving into the chair position once they kind of understand. And really, you see what it is. It's talking a lot in a meeting and trying to keep people moving.
And being very patient with the public.
And being patient.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable running meetings. I think I'm less comfortable doing I think the stellar job that Janet has done working behind the scenes and getting people on board and that sort of
How do I
thing.
do that?
That's not a skill that really
I think
comes
that's
naturally to
actually
me.
happening. I think you just think that's happening.
No, I don't sell yourself short.
All right, well, thank you for that. So if we're good, everybody keep thinking about this.
So you can
and-
email me your votes. So
yeah,
we
email the
can
votes.
talk about it at the next meeting. I did hear from Dave already. I knew he wasn't going to be at the meeting. And I did email Allison to let her know to email me her thoughts. Does everyone have the guidance from the select board still, or do you need me to recirculate that? Just so you know what you're in for if we go back in person.
Got it.
You have it?
Yep.
Everyone's got that. Alrighty.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, I need a adjourning thing. A
I
motion
second
to adjourn. Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank
Aye.
you very much for being here.
Aye.
We're gonna
Bye-bye.
make them
Thanks,
shorter one of these
everybody.
days.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Kristen.
You. Bye.
Bye. I can't now, I
Cosmo
can't
says
figure
bye.
out how to make you guys go away. I can't find my little button.
I'm going for a walk.
Oh.